The story begins with the words of a huge dragon who tells a little girl that if she came here without even knowing what kind of place this mountain is, then let her blame her own stupidity. He guarantees the little girl that she will go to hell right now. The little girl starts crying and resists that she shouldn't do this. She cries bitterly, screaming and begging for someone to help her. Her short hair is sticking right in her face. Then suddenly, someone comes and stands in front of the girl. This man has a little dragon sitting on his shoulder and smiling as widely as his master. The man begins to apologize to the dragon for his impertinence. The man explains that the baby got to this mountain by mistake, so he shouldn't be so hostile. He smiles broadly and asks the dragon if they have an agreement. Behind them, a girl looks at them in surprise. Then the dragon screams in rage that then he will send him to hell with her and begins to collect a fireball in his mouth. The girl starts screaming in fear again, and the man seriously tells the dragon not to scare an innocent baby like that. The man literally jumps and gives a blow to the dragon's head with his bare hands, asking if he doesn't feel sorry for her. At this time, at the foot of the mountain, a girl screams and looks for some kind of Shienna. She's an elf and wonders where the girl has gone. Then someone calls her, calling her Serona. Yuna and Luluna approach her. The girl asks them if they have found the girl. One says that this is not the road that a little girl could walk all the way to the mountain. The other says that most likely she went to another place. Serona begins to speak with regret, if she hadn't told Shienna that time. But before she finishes, one calms her down, and the other asks if she's really talking about the fact that the girl admires Serona and wants to become a defender. Serona recalls that she then replied to Shienna that it was impossible. Then the girl promised to prove that she could defeat the dragon. Serona sighs. She wasn't joking and went up the mountain. The guy looks warily at the hill. He says there are a lot of strong monsters there. The girl replies that he is right, and you can say goodbye to your life if you go there. Her friend hopes it's just a mistake, that someone saw her running up the mountain. The guy runs away and says that he will look again in the west. The other says that then she will go east. Serona, looking at the mountain, stays in place and prays that Shienna will be careful. At this time on the mountain, the little girl calms down after bitter tears and, looking at the defeated dragon, does not understand how the man put the monster down with one blow. He turns to her and asks if the girl is okay, if the dragon has injured her. The little dragon on her shoulder is looking at her with the same smile. Shienna asks in a trembling voice if the man has won. He replies that the guy just knocked out the dragon. He asks her if the girl can get up. The man gives the girl his hand. She holds on and stands up, asking if it was magic. The guy replies that he can't use magic. The little girl starts to stutter and object. In a panic, she quickly begins to say that this dragon is extremely strong. It is an S-rank monster. Does the guy not know about this? The girl assures that she is not lying, telling her name. She says that she has heard that even if many elves unite, they will not be able to defeat the monster. The man awkwardly asks if this is true. The guy asks that her name is Shienna. He thinks her ears are pointed because she's an elf. The man says his name is Vasu. The guy turned out to be a human being. He tells Shienna that he is glad to meet her. The hero takes her to the base of the mountain. Shienna says that even though he is human and can't even use magic, he was able to defeat this monster in an instant. She began to assume that. The man stared at her. The girl seriously claimed that Vasu's brother was really very strong. He is touched by what innocent eyes she has. The guy thanks Shienna. She asks him if Vasu's brother really lives on this mountain. He replies that this was not part of his plans, but then somehow it turned out by itself. She asks him again. Since he lives on a mountain, then in that case the guy became strong because he fought monsters. He thinks about it, then answers that if this is true, shouldn't he be more pumped up? He says his body is clearly not a reason to be proud. Shienna hugs the hero. He confusedly says that she is quite persistent. At that moment, he does not have time to finish the sentence. Then an arrow flies towards him from afar, which he easily catches. The man says that a little more, and the arrow would have grazed his companion. Then he asks Mael, his dragon, if she is injured. He promised to avenge his companion. The guy starts shouting for the coward who dared to shoot his little Mael to come out, and it turns out that the shooter has a lot of guts. Shienna asks Brother Vasu to calm down. Someone is coming out of the bushes. Serona comes out into the light and public view with her gorgeous, curved bow, which has been tied many times. The girl was very tense. Shienna screams that it's Serona's sister. Vasu begins to feel embarrassed and blush. After all, he did not expect that the shooter would be a girl. The hero tells her that he will forgive her only because she is a woman. Shienna says that his face says the opposite, and Male bites his hand. Serona screams that she will force him to let the girl go. Vasu is surprised by the magic, and Shienna asks Serona to wait. She manages to shout that the boy saved Shienna from the evil dragon. Serona stops, and friends run up behind her and shout that they have finally found the girl. She replies that everything is fine, thanks to the help of her brother Vasu. Vasu is asked if he is a necromancer or something like that. He replies that he is an ordinary person. The girl doubts whether an ordinary person has defeated a dragon, even alone. Shienna screams that this is exactly what happened, and that Vasu is very strong. Serona looks at him suspiciously. The guy says he's not sure if this is true, but he thanks the vase for saving Shienna. Another girl says it was amazing, asking Shienna. Vasu wants to leave and asks him to forgive him. The two panic and ask if he is seriously going to return to that mountain. He replies that this is now, like, his home, after all. They shout at him that he's lying down there. The elf guy offers to escort the man to their village. After all, they never thanked the guy for saving Shienna, after which he asks Serona if she is against it. She's just starting to ask what's going on here. Serona looks at the man in disbelief and wonders if he really protected Shienna from the monsters on the mountain. For a simple person, this is impossible. Besides, he said that he lives there, and this is extremely suspicious. The hero looks at Serona in disbelief, smiling. She says that she cannot invite a suspicious person to their village, explaining that she is the defender of the village. Another says that the boy saved Shienna's life from the dragon. Serona sees Shienna clinging to Vasu's leg and says that since the girl has become attached to him, it is unlikely that he is bad. Serona says that if he stays one night, she agrees. However, she won't take her eyes off him. They come to a village where many elves live in the crowns of large trees and meet others in the settlement. Everyone laughs and smiles at them, rejoicing at their arrival. Vasu has already managed to get to know many people and discuss some things. Everyone is wondering if he is on the way to creating his own harem, and this is the first time they see someone with such a goal. Vasu awkwardly replies that there were various reasons for that. They ask him why he is so shy. Even the elf understands that any guy would dream of a harem, so he will root for him. Serona listens to all this and reflects, so the reason for his journey is to create a harem, but it doesn't matter what his reasons are, because he disappointed her. Shienna runs up to the vase, calling him. Serona thinks all the time, let them not tell her that the man plans to take the girl with him, to think that his poisonous fingers would touch such a young creature. She sees a happy Shienna sitting on his lap and asks him if this will be her private place. Vasu awkwardly says that she is still persistent. Shienna says she asked around what a harem was. Shienna happily asks if it's true that she can join brother Vasu's harem because he saved her life. In a panic, he asks her to wait and asks if she is in too much of a hurry. The girl argues, saying that she is already 10 years old. The man says that she is still a child, and she says that she is already an adult. Serona thinks to herself that she should send this dangerous guy away as soon as possible. Serona's friend asks the vase if Tom collects fruits or berries. The hero replies that yes, they do, and he is basically omnivorous. If so, then Serona's friends will collect them for the hero. Vasu asks to be allowed to help him, too. They refuse and say that he is still their guest. Serona says that if Vasu goes, then so does she. The elf guy says it's rare to see her like this. They are walking through the forest. Vasu asks in surprise if all this is edible. They reply that elves prefer fruits. They tell us that they make various products out of them. Vasu notices the patterned fruit and says it looks so appetizing. He plucks it off, brings it to his mouth to taste it. They shout at him that it is deadly poisonous, but he manages to take a bite with great appetite. Everyone is standing in horror and waiting for what will happen next. He chews the vase to the end, and then joyfully shouts that it is so juicy and so delicious. He says that he resembles a pear in some way, smells like grass. Then he looks around and asks, so where's that poisonous fruit they were talking about? Serona tells him that he just ate it. Shienna screams that it's so amazing. The girl admires and says that brother Vasu's stomach is just as strong. Serona is perplexed. She reflects that even though the toacher fruits are already ripe, they cannot be eaten without cooking. After all, one bite is enough to cause shock. She makes sure that this guy is not an ordinary person. Vasu is surprised, and chewing, he says, is it really this fruit that is poisonous, even though it is very tasty? Serona examines, feels his body, and wonders if he has become stronger after fighting monsters on that mountain. But he has no scars on his body, even his muscles are not pronounced. Embarrassed, Vasu asks her what she is doing. In the evening, a feast is held for the vase. Everyone is sitting at the table and enjoying the food, especially the vase. He holds food in 2 hands and with his mouth full, says that he has not eaten such delicious food for a long time, so he is so happy. Male eats too and agrees with him. They ask him who this little dragon is to him. Vasu replies that she is his comrade. Then Mail bites him. Vasu corrects himself and says that she is his fiancée. They ask him if his harem even includes a dragon. The elf guy asks the interlocutor not to be surprised. He even ate a blue two-tater fruit. The elf is surprised and says that it is strange that he is still alive. The third one says that, however, he is so strange that he is even interesting. Serona begins to say that perhaps he is a dragon disguising himself as a human. Everyone looks at her in shock and silence. In a moment, she was laughed at and laughed loudly, asking if she was joking, speaking of which, it's pretty rude. In dismay, Serona convinces that she seriously assumed such an outcome. Vasu says with a grin, if he's as cool as a dragon, maybe his life could be different. Serona looks sadly at the guy and asks herself why the hero's eyes are always so clear. It makes her, the one who still suspected him, look extremely stupid. Late at night, Vasu is lying down. A girl comes to him and thinks it's good that he's fast asleep. She thinks it's now or never. Saren reflects that he should have a guild card with him, and if not, this will be a reason for her to force him to leave the village at first light. Vasu feels someone's presence. The girl rummages through his things and takes out a card. Serona realizes with horror and anger that she cannot see his status. It takes a drop of blood, but at least she can confirm his identity. Sitting on her lap, she reads that his name is Vasu and he is 16 years old. She sees something and is surprised. Then he looks at Vasu sleeping sweetly and realizes that when she looks at him like that, he really doesn't look like a bad person at all, but she will tell everyone tomorrow anyway. Morning is coming. Vasu wakes up. He yawns and stretches, saying that he slept very, very soundly. He comes out and says that the morning in the elven village is quite quiet. Have the others not woken up yet? Then he noticed some movement from below. The hero sees someone's silhouette in front of him. He wonders what's wrong with this guy. His ears seem to be pointed, so he's probably an elf too. But why is he wearing this black robe? The man says it's suspicious. He asks Mael if she agrees. His companion agrees with this statement. Then he offers to follow him. At this time, Serona is swimming in the lake. She realizes that it's worth coming back soon. Vasu is most likely already awake. Then she sees that someone is rustling nearby. A vase abruptly comes out of the bushes and looks at her, and Serona does not immediately understand what is happening. She screams sharply, and Vasu's nose is bleeding profusely. He begins to explain that he was passing by here, and Serona immediately starts using magic, causing the wind to bring chaos. The wind tore his clothes. The girl covers herself with a canvas and, stammering, asks him for forgiveness that everything turned out this way, and then resents why she should apologize to him for anything at all. She asks if he thinks it strange why only his clothes were torn to pieces by wind magic. Vasu sits and explains that before that he was consumed by fire once and the result was the same. She does not understand and asks why he is unharmed. Serona gives him clothes and asks her to forgive him if they don't fit, because they belong to her father. Vasu asks if she's sure it's okay for him to wear something like that. She replies that her father doesn't need it anymore after all. Vasu asks if this is an important thing for her. She replies that it is, but it's better than watching him all the time without clothes. As a result, they sit awkwardly on a log, looking down at the floor. She turns to Vasu and says that she knows his true form. Vasu looks at her questioningly. Serona continues that he is most likely a criminal. The girl asks to forgive her, because she looked at his guild card, and it has not been updated for 2 years. Serona says that, in other words, something happened to him 2 years ago, and the guy ran away for the whole time. Vasu tensed at this argument. She continues to lay out her assumption. The reason why he lives and hides himself on this mountain, where no one would dare even approach, is that Vasu is guilty of something, and she asks him if she's right. Serona says that she is the protector guarding this village, and she is really grateful to him for saving Shienna, but the girl cannot allow a suspicious person to stay in the village forever. Serona guiltily explains to the hero that this is her mission, so she asks her to understand. Vasu replies that everything is fine, but she was wrong about one thing. The man is not a criminal. Serona tries to find out something, but Vasu interrupts her and says that if possible, he doesn't want to remember anything about what happened 2 years ago. The girl looks at him piteously and addresses him by name, but the man thanks Serona for letting him stay. Vasu stands up, followed by Serona. The guy calls Mail with him and goes off into the distance, asking the girl to send greetings from him to the rest of the village. And he turns around with a smile and says he hopes he can meet someone as beautiful as Serona. She is surprised by his words and begins to sob and suffer a little, hiding her gaze, looks after him and says that she sincerely feels sorry for him. A little later, Vasu sits in the middle of the road and sighs. He says it was too sensual for him. Miles says something to him, and he thanks his fiancée for trying to cheer him up. Vasu says that because of his life on the mountain, he can't communicate properly now. If only a man could tell Serona everything properly, maybe they could be together then. The hero introduces her and says that, of course, he wants to know more about her, about the beautiful Serona. He remembers the situation at the lake. Mail immediately starts biting, and he shouts that he didn't mean it and calls himself a bad person several times. Then he hears a familiar voice calling his name. He turns and sees 2 elves running towards him. The man exclaims joyfully that it is Luluna and Yuyuna. They're screaming that they finally found the guy. Vasu says he's so happy to think they liked the guy so much that the elves were chasing him. She says that's not the case. The hero is surprised that this is not the reason. He asks, they tell him, shouting, that everything is bad because Gazuna's boyfriend has returned. Vasu looks at them in disbelief, not understanding who this Gazuna is. The girl explains to him that he fought with Serona for the highest place among the defenders in the past and just disappeared a few years ago. She says that now he has returned with terrifying power. Vasu asks if he is accidentally wearing a black robe. He is told that he is. Does he really know him? The girl cries and says that if everything is left as it is, their village will be destroyed, so she asks him no, begs him. She says that, to be honest, she still doesn't believe Shienna's story about how Vasu defeated the dragon, but if he can help, then she begs him to save Serona. At this time, there is a big commotion in the village. Everyone is in a panic. The elder demands an answer from Gazuna. Why is he doing this? Can he proudly call himself an elf after such a thing? Gazuna rudely tells him to shut up, calling him a pathetic old man. Gazuna holds a dark ball in her hands and shouts, addressing it to Serona, that today they will solve their dispute. He shouts that a fight is starting with him, calling himself great. Serona stands with a long blade protecting the elder. Vasu and the others hear a loud noise. He asks what kind of noise it is. The girl screams at everyone to hurry up and run somewhere safe. The elf guy starts talking about what he heard about this sphere that Gazuna found. The guy begins to tell. He has heard that the black sphere, which is in the hands of Gazun, gives the power to control several hundred monsters, and if this rumor is true, this rumble is most likely. He did not have time to finish the sentence. He finished it with a vase. While everyone was running to safety, Vasu ran up to Serona. He screams for her. She turns around and asks the man why he came back, because it's too dangerous here. Meanwhile, Gazuna tells the defender that it is useless to invite someone with her. He raises his hand with the ball and says that now the girl will see his retribution for looking down on him all these years. Gazuna shouts to the elves, let everyone be afraid and run away as fast as they can, calling them cursed. Serona tenses up and sees from afar how many monsters are rapidly and crazily moving towards them. The girl begins to pronounce the spell. Her friend shuts her up and says that it is useless. Even magic is not able to stop the hordes. The elf guy tells Vaz that they have to run. Vasu is calm, replies that he does not fully understand the situation. Vasu clarifies, in short, that guy, Gazuna, wants to fight Serona to prove which one of them is better for the position of defender of the elves. They tell him that it is, but there is no time for it now. Vasu says that then, if Serona can fight him without worrying about anything, Vasu grabs Serona by the shoulders and tells her that he will deal with these monsters, so let the girl give her all. Serona looks at him in disbelief, and he says with a wide smile that she is strong, so the hero is sure that the girl will be able to defeat this guy in an instant. Yuyuna and Luluna ask the vase to stop. They ask him what he's talking about. Does he really want to die? The Gazuna behind says that he will teach him a lesson. After all, he had summoned the B-rank monsters. Does this kid understand that? Everyone freezes in horror. Vasu continues to calmly look at the approaching horde of monsters, and they shout at him that he will die if he does not flee. Vasu only calmly notes that since this is the situation, Serona sobs and asks to stop all this. Vasu just puts his hands forward and stops the monsters. He grabs one main one, swings it, which pulls all the other monsters with him, and then slams them all into the ground. The monsters are writhing in pain in front of the guys. Serona looks in horror and asks in the name of all that is holy, "Who is this face?" Serona can't believe her eyes that she saw a huge pile of monsters thrown into the air as if they weighed like cotton. And who would believe that a single person, proudly standing in front of hundreds of enemies, would defeat them all without any weapons or magic? The girl thinks that she is in some kind of strange dream. Shienna says she wasn't lying, and Brother Vasu is really so strong. The main character is incredibly strong. A man with a smile on his face asks if the elves are okay. Gazuna can't believe her eyes. What's going on here at all? It can't be that this whole bunch are B-rank monsters that were defeated by a pathetic little man. He asks Vasu how he was able to defeat the horde, having only bare hands from the equipment. Serona thinks if the stories that he lived on the mountain with the S-rank monsters and how he saved Shienna from the dragon are true, then it doesn't matter how many B-rank monsters stand in front of him, he won't even break a sweat. Vasu turns to Mr. Now that all his monsters have stopped attacking at the same time. Does he still want to continue? Gazuna resists everything and takes out another sphere, shouting that Vasu should not dare to look down on him. Luluna and Yuyuna are surprised that Gazuna had two spheres, black and red. They call him a very bad man. Friends shout at Serona to get out of there because this red sphere is too powerful. Gazuna says they are too late. A barrier appears that encloses the girl and him in the same area. Serona asks him if this is really a barrier. Gazuna begins to explain to Devushka that initially, all the villagers whom she loved so much and protected at all costs, Gazuna planned to eliminate right in front of her eyes with the help of monsters. But some random passerby intervened, and thanks to him, this plan turned out to be a failure. However, let the girl not think that this is the end of it, because the real purpose of the villain was... Enthusiastically, Gazuna says that his main mission was to kill Serona with his own hands. The villain pulls the sphere into his mouth, while offering the girl to fight, and show these pathetic elves who is stronger. A great flow of energy begins. Serona protects herself with her forearms. She is surprised that her opponent ate the red sphere. Yuyuna and Luluna shout that they will get the girl out of there. However, they cannot break through the barrier, so Serona asks them to leave. She will definitely defeat him. She looks at the vase, and then smiles confidently, as if telling him not to worry about her, because she will cope. But after she turned around, simultaneously shouting at Gazuna to come and bite it out, what she saw shocked her. A huge monster loomed in front of her, laughing and gloating. Apparently, Gazuna transformed into a monster. The monster screams in surprise at what kind of power it is, since he can feel it flowing through his body. With such force, you can forget about killing Serona, because the villain can take everyone away in an instant. He attacks her, saying that this is the real him. The defender dodges and, holding her blade tightly, wounds the monster. Is this small wound really all the damage inflicted on such a huge monster? But after that, he realizes in horror that his wound is regenerating. The monster Gazuna grins and throws Serona against the barrier wall. She starts coughing violently. She hadn't expected such strength. Worried, Yuyuna and Luluna run up to the barrier, trying to reach their friend. Gazuna approaches her and asks where is the willpower that she showed him earlier. He scoffs at her, saying that she is powerless without her bow. The villain says he has been informed that such a useless elf is the current chief guardian of the village. What nonsense. Suddenly, he grabs her and lifts her up. The monster bared its teeth, showing her its entire deep mouth. He says it's even good that she was a defender, because the dead body of the girl will be proof for the unfortunate villagers whom she's been protecting all this time. At this time, the vase tries to break through the barrier, using light taps. After that, with one blow of his fist, he destroys the entire barrier in an instant. Everyone looks at him and his fist in shock, including Gazuna. Vasu apologizes and says he thought it would be stronger. Serona sighs with relief, and Gazuna resentfully asks him to stop already. He asks the hero if he is even human, and Vasu calls him a brute. He holds out the vase and shows his ID, saying that he is currently at least 88% human. The hero is walking towards Serona. Gazuna shouts at him to stay away, threatening him with a Serona. He asks him if he cares what the monster might do to her. Vasu says that taking hostages is a dirty trick. Gazuna continues to shout at him to stay away. Vasu orders him to take his hands off Serona. The monster says that then he should not come if he wants him to let her go. Gazuna orders him not to pry into their racial problems because he is not even an elf and he has no reason to interfere. He replies that of course there is a reason, and she is a girl. Because Serona charmed the main character to the end, and of course he doesn't want her to die. The defender widens her eyes in surprise. He punches the huge monster with such force that it flies very far away. Vasu turns his gaze to Serona. The girl anxiously calls the vase. The hero kneels down, asking the defender if she is okay. The girl answers in the affirmative. Afterwards, feeling awkward, she thanks her hero. The vase turns red. The hero smiles broadly, but Serona upsets him, saying that she is happy for him and his feelings, but she swore to her late parents to protect the village for them, which is why she is sorry and she cannot reciprocate. Friends run up to them. Vasu laughs gaily and says that, of course, it will be burdensome for her, because he confessed out of the blue. In the end, he asks her to forget about it. He sighs sadly and says that he will continue the journey. A Gazuna flies up here. Serona, seeing the approaching enemy, warns the vase. The monster slammed him into a tree. The hero says that it really surprises him that Gazuna is still alive. He is outraged. Did the man really think that he could defeat him? After all, he is only a man, so he will get him out of the way. Suddenly, an arrow flew in. Serona fired the gun. Gazua falls, and the defender and Vasu look at each other for a long time. He couldn't believe it, that he was saved by a girl, and even more so by Serona. The main character runs away from them in an instant, and the girls do not understand where he is going. The elf guy says that it looks like the guy really liked Serona. In the dead of night, Serona sits on a platform attached to a tree. She looks at the stars and exhales. But suddenly, someone screams for her. It turned out to be Yuyuna, Serona's friend. She says she found something in that place. Could it be? The guild card is a vase. Serona says that it must be hard for him in the sense that without her, he will not be able to prove that he is an adventurer. Yuyuna tells her that even if she wants to bring her back, she has no idea where the guy is now. Serona asks her friend if she can keep the card, but he has to come back for it. She agrees. They wish each other a good night. Serona walks through the forest and finds the place of the battle. After that, she found a tree into which Gazuna had imprinted a vase where his blood remained. She thought to herself that the adventurer's card would activate upon contact with the owner's blood. Serona is taking blood. She remembers what Vasu said about being at least 88% human and then wonders what he meant when he said that. Suddenly, a bright light appears from the card. Someone is yelling at her in displeasure at what she is doing, and Serona's interlocutor is worried that she activates it. To the surprise of the defender, it was the card that spoke. Serona is shocked to ask what kind of divine presence it is. She is told that it is obvious, because she is the goddess protecting the vase. The card requires her to take it to where the vase is now. Serona asks that he has all this strange power because of this goddess. The goddess replies that she didn't do anything. Vasu got all this power himself. Then it hurts. If you live so long on a dangerous mountain, the body adapts and evolves. Serona asks why Vasu had to live on this terrible mountain in the first place. The goddess begins to remember. Serona asks the card to explain to her. The card asks why on earth she should explain something to a strange girl. The defender says it's because she wants to know more about the vase, and she just can't forget. Caution test and fort. Modded and for sepals. We can pour sepals for mestas as a verte. The Ono and he said that he did not want to remember the past. The unknown woman asks if she wants a lot because she recently rejected the vase. Serona screams that she did not reject him. The map says that Vasu's past is a rather delicate matter, so you can't just tell it like that. Serona puts her hand to her forehead. Then she asks how she feels about it. Serona then says that if she doesn't tell her about Vasu's past, she will throw away the guild card right now. She calls Serona a demon, unless proud elves would do such a thing. She answers her sharply, not to implicate her race. The card eventually agrees and asks the girl not to tell anyone about it, even the vase itself. Serona agrees to such conditions. The unknown goddess says it's good, and she says that she will show the young elf a dream that she saw about the main character's past. The dream was about what happened to Vasu 2 years ago. The story begins with the hometown of Vasu, the royal capital of Iskoa. It was a huge city with a huge castle in the center and houses surrounding it. A couple is sitting under a tree. The young man asks if the girl is sure that he is exactly what she needs. She screams that she has already said that she doesn't need anyone else but him. That's why, when they both turn 15, Arya asks to marry her. She awkwardly asks him if Vasu is going to reject her offer. He replies that this is not the case. He is very happy. The boy proposes to her to get married. They look at each other with great love. However, someone is strongly against it. A girl with dark hair gathered in ponytails asks him if he is seriously going to marry Arya, addressing him as a brother. The action moves into the Vasu family circle. His mom says what a lovely promise that is. The sister screams that she definitely won't accept it. The father says they will hope that he will not forget about it in 2 years. Vasu assures me that he will not forget. The father asks if the son has forgotten that Arya is from the church and will soon be chosen. What will everyone say then? The wife agrees, saying that the boy is not suitable for her in this regard. His sister asks him to listen to his parents. It will not end well for his brother. Her father says that when she is chosen, she will join the journey at the call of the hero. And when that happens, he doubts that the vase will be in her thoughts in the first place. The boy assures that everything is fine because he believes in his promise with Arya. However, a year later, the unknown blesses the hero and his companions, telling them to be careful on their way to conquer the demon lord. Arya, who was chosen as a saint, must go with the hero on a mission to eliminate the lord. A huge crowd is watching the departure of the hero. Among the people, looking at a vase, he calls Arya and asks her to take him with her. Here, the boy is stopped and grabbed by the chin. He was held by the raised chin by a beautiful hero who was interested in what kind of man he was. Vasu was shocked that it was the hero himself. He asks the young man if he knew that he had to prove his worth before he could go with them. Vasu tells him to shut up and says that he has an important promise with Arya. The hero replies that he doesn't care about the promise. But if he wants to go on a dangerous journey with them, he will check the kid himself. And if he can win, Arya tries to dissuade him, but Vasu doesn't mind. After that, the hero strikes several blows at the young man. The vase loses several times. The hero says that it is even a pity to waste time on it. He says that let the boy become at least a little stronger, and what a problem boy he is. Arya anxiously calls her friend. The hero tells Arya to leave him because he's not worth it. She looks pitifully at the vase lying face down on the floor. At that moment, Vasu decided he will become much stronger. And as time went on, the sister resentfully says that he does nothing but hunt monsters late every day. Therefore, she would not be surprised if it turns out that all the monsters near the capital were killed by his hands. He doesn't pay attention, then the girl turns to him louder. Vasu turns around happily and looks at her. The young man asks Kagane to see if his level has risen. She asks to understand that it doesn't matter how many little things the brother interrupts, the level will not increase. He says that his sister is right. Kagane asks why he's working so hard, and then she says that it's probably because of Arya, because it's obvious. Kagane says let him forget about her. Who needs her at all? Had he forgotten their promise that Kagane would become his wife in the future? He laughs and says he remembers. Vasu says they're kind of blood relatives. She wants to enlighten. The girl begins to say that in this world it is normal to marry a relative. Vasu says that he has not heard about it. Then she proudly offers to get married right now. However, Vasu says he believes in Arya, no matter what. Kagane sighs and says that if he has decided so, then so be it. But Arya is on a long journey with the hero, which has been going on for a year. What will he do? Sadly, Kagane asks her brother what he will do if she falls in love with someone else when she returns. Vasu smiles softly. The girl is shocked by such a reaction. She apologizes. The brother replies that everything is fine because he understands what the girl is driving at. Then someone shouts that the brave hero has returned. He and his company have defeated the demon lord and are already approaching. The brother and sister look at their city in surprise. People are happy. Someone says that he has heard about their speedy return to the capital. The other one tells him that there will be a feast today. Vasu wonders if they are coming back and immediately runs away. There is a hero in a big cart under a banner. Kagane shouts that the girl standing next to the hero is Arya. Vasu says that the girl will not be able to see him from there. Then he wonders where the parade is going. Someone answers him that he is not sure, but, it seems, to the palace. The king says that they did a laudable deed by defeating the demon lord. The hero and his companions, proud of themselves, thank the king with great joy. One Arya was sad. Vasu is quietly calling his beloved. His Majesty is very glad that they have returned safely. He asks what kind of reward the brave men who saved the world from the threat will receive. The hero thanks his king, saying that he is too kind. Then he replies that he has only one wish. He wants to make the Holy Virgin Arya his wife, and he asks His Majesty to bless him for this step. The main character listens to all this with great horror and an empty, soulless look. He thought it was over. Then the hero takes the girl by the hand, turns her beautiful face to himself, takes her by the head and kisses her. Everyone is happy for them and wishes them to be happy together. Kagane gets angry and says that's what she thought. She turns to her brother and wants to say this, but the vase is no longer in place. Vasu ran without looking ahead. Sobbing, he told himself over and over again that this often happens in stories. The young man fell to his knees. He just couldn't stay in the royal capital anymore because there were too many painful memories of Arya in it. Kagane arrives, and his mother greets him. She wonders if her brother hasn't returned home yet. Mom replies that she hasn't yet and asks if Arya really came home today. Kagane replies that she is. Afterwards, going into his room, she found a note in his room. She called her mother. The letter read, "One day, when Vasu is finally proud of himself, he will definitely return home. The guy doesn't know what to do for this yet, but until then, he asks them not to look for him. He asks them to be healthy, and for Arya and the hero, he expresses the hope that the two of them will find their happiness." After that, Vasu just wandered aimlessly around the area and wandered onto that familiar mountain to Serona. Vasu goes to the mountaintop and shivers from the cold. He can barely hold on and says that it's so cold around and he really wants to eat. Vasu no longer has the strength to go on, so he will probably end his journey and his journey here. This mountain is known as a place inhabited by the strongest and scariest monsters of the S rank. It is said that even elite corps of knights from large countries will have difficulties with them, but Vasu accidentally wandered into such a terrible place. Even though he was lucky not to encounter any strong S-rank monsters on the way, he was starving badly, so much so that his life was literally on the line. However, this time a dragon flies up to him. The creature begins to warm the man. Vasu barely says that he wants to eat something. The dragon quickly looks for something and gives him some strange thing. Here, Vasu's eyes widen sharply in perplexity. He asks himself what it is, because his body feels numb. The hero thinks that he is already going to another world. He demands that he discard these thoughts, because the main character left the royal capital and got stuck on the mountain, not because he wanted to end his journey. He shouts that he does not want to complete the journey. After that, he loses consciousness. After a while, he opens his eyes and stands up in shock, not understanding if he is still alive. The dragon sits on his head, hugging him. The vase is greatly frightened by the approach of a white creature. He assumes that this is one of the S-ranked monsters. Vasu assumes that it is a baby dragon. The creature begins to snuggle up to him, laughing lovingly. Vasu asks if she really liked him. The white dragon agrees with this conclusion, and thanks the dragon, they begin to walk together. He says he hasn't met any monsters, but he hopes he can find something to eat. They find mushrooms in search of food. The main character tries and says that they make his tongue slightly numb, but in general it's not so bad. Vasu is happy and shouts that even the bone he found on the way is very tasty. After the dragon saved him, whatever he eats is now so delicious. Vasu suggests trying to defeat several monsters and raise the level. The creature asks about the card. The hero says that this is a guild card. It can show the status of the owner. He thinks it's kind of proof that he's an adventurer. Then suddenly the card starts ringing and the vase gets scared. He wonders why the melody is coming from the card. The card asks if the vase hears her. He looks around and does not understand who it is. The card asks you not to worry. She already knows everything. The card calls him poor and starts crying. He doesn't understand. Then she assures me that everything will be fine now. From this moment on, the hero will meet a lot of good things on his way. After all, she is here with him now. Vasu asks again who it is. The card ignores and gives him its blessing. It turns out to be a goddess who asks him to give his all from now on. A screen appears in front of him. Vasu does not understand why his statuses are written so vaguely, and even inadequate to boot, he does not understand what is going on at all. He sees that his unique skill is gluttony. The status increases when eating high-ranking food or anything above the user's level. Vasu asks what it is. Vasu understands why everything he eats seems delicious. If everything is like this, then the hero will eat until he bursts. He starts eating everything that catches his eye. He checks the data. The card calls the vase. The hero happily realizes that this is a goddess. She asks him how strong he plans to become. Vazu doesn't know what to say. The hero replies that he himself does not know for sure why his body has become like this. The goddess says that if he continues to use the glutton, he will be able to become even stronger than the goddess herself. Vasu is surprised by this statement. Vasu says that he has not fought any monsters since then. The goddess explains that this is all because the monsters are afraid to attack, because of the aura that constantly emanates from the hero. He is covered by a huge shadow, which calls a certain male in a terrible voice. A huge and terrifying dragon asks Mael in a menacing voice who this man is next to her. Vasu gets scared. The monster asks what this man has forgotten on the mountain, so let him disappear. Otherwise, he will have to deal with the Dragon King, Ragnar. Vasu has never heard of it, but the monster looks powerful. The dragon takes Mael, addresses her, and asks her to be a good girl. The hero demands that the dragon let him go, because he saved his life earlier. But the monster does not pay attention to the words. He, threatening, tells him to take his paws off the dragon, after which he grabs the dragon by the tail, swings it, and throws it up. The dragon falls to the ground in shock. Vasu asks Mael if he is okay. The dragon, horrified, realizes that a simple man has thrown it so easily. Vasu is shocked himself. The monster fell into a stupor even more from the fact that he did it unintentionally. The action moves into a huge palace on top of a mountain. The dragon talks awkwardly. Mael is his only daughter. People say that children should travel a lot. Mael seems to want to see the outside world too. Besides Mael's dad, her mom was also in the room. She says that her husband was very worried, so he decided to keep an eye on Mael from a distance so that she would not find out. Vasu says he never would have thought that dragons would look so much like humans. Vasu asks him if this is really his castle. He says that it is, and that it seems that Vasu does not have a place that he could call home. My mother says she is very interested in why guys can become friends just by waving their fists. She also says that Vasu can use this lock as long as he wants. My father says that the vase is really amazing. Even its flame did not scratch it at all. She asks if he is definitely human, and he replies that he is 88%. The dragon clarifies, he is a hero. Shouldn't Vaz go on a journey with his companions? The monster asks him why with such great strength he did not go to defeat the demon lord. Vasu replies that it's a long story. Vasu, listening to all this, thinks only of Arya's happy baby face and the subsequent kiss of Arya and the hero. He clenches his fist. He confidently tells the Dragon Lord and his wife that all he wants is a faithful friend. If he has someone who supports him wholeheartedly, then maybe he will return to the place where he grew up, a place filled with many memories, to the royal capital. But right now he is too scared, too confused and pathetic even thinking about approaching this place. He starts to tremble. But if he has a precious friend that Vasu can rely on, then even if he meets the hero and Arya again, there will be no disappointments or sadness, like now. He smiles as he says this. The dragon believes that the hero has been through a lot. Then what does he think about his own harem? It is the dream of any man to be surrounded by many beautiful girls on his journey. Mael's mother asks her husband if he is joking. He corrects himself and says that he means if he saves people with his strength, he is sure that there will be at least a couple of girls who will fall in love with him. Mael starts to say something. The mother is horrified. Has she already fallen in love with him? The father does not accept this and says that Mael loves only dad. The vase awkwardly says that he is not particularly handsome, and the dragon says that he is so cute. The Dragon King says that the mother goes there too. The dragon says that Vasu is going to leave the mountain and go on a journey, so Mael trusts him. The mother says that this way her husband will not have to worry and keep an eye on her. They ask to protect their only daughter, to help people in need. If he uses all his strength to protect people, then he will definitely have friends. Friends who will love him with every fiber of their being. The goddess says that this is the whole story of the protagonist's past. Now Serona understands the vase a little better. She is horrified to say that she actually acted so cruelly. When a childhood friend is stolen right in front of your eyes, she can't even imagine how much it hurt. The defender said such cruel words, rejected and trampled on his sincere feelings, and even in front of a bunch of people, as if it was a public, shameful execution. The goddess agrees and says that it was difficult for her to restrain herself. Serona, disappointed, tells the unknown goddess that she really wants to go with Vasu too. But the goddess calls her by name. The girl says that she promised her late parents to protect this forest. The goddess tells her not to worry about it. Serona senses someone's presence and turns around. She sees Yuyun and Luluna approaching her. Her friend says she was a little weird, so they came to check on her. Then he apologizes, but they heard everything. Yuyuna says that Serona should be more honest in her feelings. Luluna agrees, and says that the guys from the village are not so weak that she had to protect them forever. He adds that Shienna has already said, since Vasu saved her, then her sister has no choice but to join the hero's harem. Yuyuna comes over and asks to take care of this card. Then her friend says that it's up to her to decide whether to join the harem or not, but she won't lose anything if she just delivers the card back to the vase. It's a very important thing for him. Serona's eyes widen in surprise. She is happy that she will be able to see the hero again. With sparkling eyes, Serona assures her that she is going to go for the vase. The guys are happy for her. She thanks them and leaves everything to them. Friends wonder if Serona was like this before. Yuyuna says that this girl's mind is now filled with only thoughts about the vase. Serona is still not entirely sure what this growing feeling is. However, the girl wants to know more about Vasu, and after she gets to know him better, she is sure to find out exactly what kind of feeling it is. She turns to her parents and says that she is very sorry for the promise, but if they were alive now, then they would definitely have pushed her forward like the others, and that's why this is her first selfish act. The former protector of the elves asks the vase to wait for her. Vasu plaintively asks the guards to do something about it, and they reply that they cannot confirm the identity of a stranger without a guild card, and they cannot allow a suspicious person to enter their city. They shout at him to leave. Vasu says in tears that he has been walking around for God knows how many days because of a broken heart, so he really misses sleeping in a soft bed and fresh bread or soup instead of just monster meat, so he begs them. But they refuse him. Even though he still managed to get this far, he was kicked out. And he reached the fortress city of Lunik. The hero sat down away from the gate and exhaled wearily. He wonders how long it has been since he left the elf village. He remembers Serona's words and says that this was to be expected, because he asked her to join him before he really got to know who would agree to such a thing. Mail supports him. Vasu is grateful, but he is fine now. He suggests trying to get closer next time before, as he admits, because the path of the harem is difficult and thorny. But first he needs to do something about the lost card. Maybe he should go back to the village and look for it, but it will be too much for him. To think that after arriving in such a big city, he would not even be able to enter it. The hero sighs sadly, not knowing what to do. Then he sees a little girl with fresh baguettes running away from the monster, apologizing and shouting that it was bread for the guests, so she can't give them to the monster. Vasu realizes that a little girl is running towards him, being chased by some huge thing. He hears her calling for help. Then he stands up and hits the monster. The hero defeats the monster with one blow. She admires him, saying how strong he is. In response, he just laughs, saying that she is exaggerating. The girl asks the guy if he is a traveler. He replies that something like that. Then the girl asks him to stay at their hotel. Vasu awkwardly says that he can't even enter the city. She is surprised that her savior has lost the guild card. He's afraid he won't be able to accept her offer, even if he wants to. The girl says that it is possible to restore the card. You just need to compare the date of registration in his hometown. And if the device that determines whether he is a criminal does not react in any way, the man will be able to get a new card very quickly. She adds that she will have to pay 5 gold coins. She understands from the reaction that he does not have money with him. The girl says that this is very bad, because she so wanted to hire someone to work as a bodyguard at their hotel. Vasu asks if it is really so dangerous in this city. She replies that not really. The visitors of their hotel are mostly adventurers who want to relax after the task, but a high-ranking group has appeared, which creates problems. She complains that they behave like masters simply because they are strong. Vasu asks if she wants him to help her. She says that she will do everything to persuade her father. She notes that her dad is very strong. She introduces herself and says her name is Lula. The girl is the face of the hotel, wind in a bright gazebo, and the future owner. The vase is also introduced, and he says he's a simple man. The girl tells him to take care of them. Mail intervenes in their conversation. The girl laughs and says that she also meant the dragon. Verification is underway. He is told that there is no problem. Vasu is surprised by the speed. They say that he has no record of crimes, and they were able to confirm that he is from Escoa, so he can enter the city. They are asking to take care of a certain Reagan. Lula proudly says that this is her daddy. He is a great innkeeper who knows how to cook a bunch of delicious dishes. Vasu thinks that Lula's father is just a simple innkeeper. The inspectors say that the loss of the guild card is a fatal mistake for an adventurer, because the high cost doubles as a warning so that they do not lose any more. Lula says that her savior will receive a new card later, when he has worked it out. Vasu says he is really grateful to her. The hero asks what he needs to do now. Lula says that her dad will tell him about the typical tasks that can be obtained at the guild tomorrow, so today he can just relax. Vasu asks what other typical tasks are. She explains that they include defeating monsters, delivering something, and so on, and he adds that for a strong man like Vasu, it will be easy. Lula says that Vasu is still an F-rank adventurer, so he won't get a big reward. Then he will be able to hunt S-rank monsters, and he ends his speech by saying that when this happens, he will be able to visit the hotel at any time. Vasu asks her if she really plans to spend her whole life on a hotel. She replies that he is quite smart. She wanted to tell them about the plans, but as soon as they enter, Lula's mother greets her and asks if she has brought a guest with her. She apologizes for being late and tells me what happened. Mother says she has to thank him. The woman says he arrived at the perfect time because Reagan is cooking something special. Vasu thanks for the hospitality. He looks at the hall and sees that everyone is in groups. He looks at the adventurous girls and thinks that someday he will start a harem. He thinks about how the girls will surround him, and suddenly he introduces the lovely Serona and starts blushing. The main character tastes the food and asks what kind of heavenly soup it is, and someone shouts that this soup is disgusting and says that it is called food. A man hears a conversation that it is better not to eat here. Another rude man says that he wanted to try poor food to remind himself how much he is above it. Vasu doesn't understand what's wrong with him. He listens to their claims. The hero realizes that, since he has a room prepared for him, he needs to start his duties. The guy needs his fists, but he hears someone yelling at them to leave. Vasu opened his eyes and saw Lala, who tells them not to laugh at Dad's food. They start to get up and approach her, pouring mud on her dad's food. She resists and does not agree, but then the man throws out a bowl of soup. Then the girl looked at the bowl with a completely empty look. One of the rude people starts asking those present who would dare to say something against them because they are A-rank A-group, Black Flame. She screams for them to apologize to her father, but then the rude adventurer pulls his hand to her face, calling her annoying. His hand is stopped by a vase. Then this adventurer also throws mud at the vase and asks who he is. The main character replies that he is just an F-rank adventurer. He calls him a laughingstock, saying that people like the guy don't live long, and he says he wants to teach him an important lesson for an adventurer. Another member of the A-rank group sticks a knife in the back of a vase, but the blade only breaks. All the bandits are shocked. A gang member asks Vasu what skill he has just used. Wow just calmly tells them that it would be better if they continued the conversation elsewhere. Then he easily throws one out the window, saying that they will not interfere with other visitors from the outside. Then he takes the rest and says that they are next. One of them is fluttering. Next, he throws them out too. Sitting on the ground, holding their heads and rubbing their bruises, they assume that the man is probably under some kind of spell. One threatens that he is going to reveal the essence of the young man in front of everyone with the help of his magic, and begins to cast a spell. Lula gets scared by calling for the vase, and the bandit who summoned magic taunts him, saying that now he understands the full power of an A-rank adventurer. Then the smoke clears, and they see the vase unharmed. The magician wonders how it is, and then they attack him with swords. Lula screams in concern. Vasu repels their blow with his fist, shouting that such attacks do not work on him. One accidentally falls on Lulu, who had Mael in her arms, and she breaks out of her arms. The fallen man says that Vasu lied to them about his rank. The guy calmly replied that this was not the case. Then they hear a growl. Vasu turns and sees the evil male, not understanding what happened. Then she lets out a stream of flame that everyone is thoroughly fried. Only the vase stops her. The rest of the visitors begin to shout and rejoice, calling the vase a dragon tamer. Everyone thinks Mael is cute. Lula thanks Vasa. She felt great relief when the gang of these brutes was defeated. Vasu says that the soup made by her father is really delicious. Lula is happy. The girl's mother hopes that the bandits have learned a lesson from this and will not return. But I wonder if they have heard. At this time, a girl is watching him. Admiring, she wonders if the main character will be able to lend her his power. Willow wakes up Vasu, who only grunts in response. She says she had such a good rest, that's why she got up early. She still has goosebumps remembering yesterday's battle. Everyone in the city is very excited, because heroes in their city are a rarity. Everyone wants to see this valiant person. Of course, this is not about him. After that, Male became famous and pulled the whole blanket over herself. He says he tried too. The girl does not deny it. But, with a fire-breathing little dragon on his shoulder, this wandering hero overcame evil and stayed to rest in their hotel. She asks if he remembers why he is going to the guild today. He claims to complete the task and pay for a new guild card. She says he said it right. The guildmaster is looking forward to meeting Vasu. After yesterday, she smiles at him happily and tells Tom to try his best. The hero wonders if it wasn't the girl's father who should have given him the task. She wanted to accompany him, but she needs to cook more pastries for the visitors. Vasu asks if she will be all right, and she says that, as usual, she will run away, but faster. For her, it's like another workout for the sake of the hotel. And then he says that instead of Lula, someone else will accompany the vase. Someone clicks the lock and apologizes for the intrusion. A woman enters the room. She says she is glad to meet someone like Vasu. Then, she says her name is Emma. The girl is a receptionist at the Adventurers Guild. She comes up close and says that the guildmaster wants to meet him personally, so he needs to change his clothes, saying that it will help him in this. Despite his refusals, she pulls off his clothes, handing him new, clean, and fresh clothes. On the way, she constantly talks about her husband. He was very excited when he saw the flames being released by this little dragon. Then they approached the Adventurers Guild of Lunik City. The guild building was a huge mansion. They enter the building. The girl tells the hero to follow her to the upper floor, to the guildmaster's room. Vasu looks around and thinks that there really are a lot of adventurers here. There are even half-humans whom he did not see in the hotel. They climb the stairs and, knocking on the door, enter the office. The main character sees a man standing proudly in front of him and apologizes for the trouble. The man says he was waiting for him. He thanks Vasu for coming to him, and the man introduced himself as Ragnar. Vasu turns into a stupor, remembering that this daddy of Lula's is also called Ragnar, and the guards trembled at the mere mention of a certain Ragnar. He asks him to sit down, and Emma, apologizing, leaves. Ragnar says he knows what happened yesterday. The man thanks him from the bottom of his heart for protecting Lulu and Kayla from the wrath of the Black Flame, adding that Lula is his daughter and Kayla is his wife. Vasu does not understand at all. Can such a bald and old man be a relative of cutie Lula? And he is angry that he does not hold back. Ragnar says Kayla married him for love and gave birth to his beautiful daughter. Vasu doesn't understand. Even this old man has a kind wife and daughter. Why is he still alone? Vasu asks for a task. He wants to return the guild card as soon as he can. The guildmaster says that he called him not only for this, he tells about the bandits, and that there is no one to carry out their task. Further, the owner says that, although the baby dragon, the hero still managed to tame it. He, not understanding what the guildmaster is driving at, asks him. Lula's father answers him. About 2 weeks ago, the merchant said that he saw the silhouette of a dragon. There have been no incidents yet, but there is no guarantee that the dragon will not attack people, so he wants Vasu to deal with him. The hero eventually agrees to this task. The guildmaster promises 30 gold pieces. Vasu is even more happy and says that he will cope. Ragnar does not doubt him. Vasu, smiling, says that it is enough for him that Lula's father will provide him with a map, and everything else will only get in the way. Ragnar says that the hero can get the card from Emma. The latter, calling him bald, leaves in the middle of the conversation. Ragnar feels that he is uneasy. He is thinking, but after all, his daughter said that he is strong. We can only wait for the report. Vasu goes and says that now that he has received the card, he needs to stock up on food. They recognize him on the street and start talking to Mael. Kayla wonders if he just found out that Ragnar is a guildmaster. She gives him water and food, and Vasu thanks her. He asks how much to pay. She does not take anything, saying that it is a thank you for yesterday. He reflects that Kayla is so kind, but she is already busy. Then he runs into some girl. She apologizes in a panic. The hero begins to say that it's nothing, but he is already watching the girl who is taking her feet into the distance. He hears that the girl is being chased. Vasu asks if she is being followed. She just looks at him in silence. Then he suggests hiding. The main character hears the voices of men who are trying to find her. They argue that she has nowhere to go, but then they themselves leave in disappointment. Holding her by the shoulders, he will tell her that it is safe now. She recognizes him. Vasu awkwardly introduces himself, and the girl praises his name, taking off her hood and saying that her name is Tata. She says she has to repay him. He says he needs to go on a mission. Tata is surprised by his light equipment, saying that apparently he is very strong. Vasu promises to return to the city. Vasu asks her that, in return, maybe she will tell about herself. Anyway, he's telling her to be careful. She wonders why he would go so far for a stranger. Vasu says that she had such loneliness on her face, and he just couldn't leave a person in such a state alone. They say goodbye. He runs away and says that he will try to return as soon as he succeeds. Tata thinks what a strange man Mr. Vasu is. Another adventurer meets and recognizes the famous vase. The unknown man tells the hero that he was checking the one near the gate. The vase recognizes him. The main character says that he is going to win, and he is also surprised by his equipment, asks to take at least a sword. The adventurer tells him to assemble at least a team, but ignores the vase and moves on. He hopes that he will just come back alive. Vasu walks up to the mountain and looks at the map. He says that according to the story, the dragon should be nearby. He offers to go running, then Mail shows tricks with the bag. First it disappears, and then it appears. Vasu says he didn't know that she could clean and take things out whenever she wanted, so they could travel light if they didn't have to take care of the luggage. He hugs Mael and says that he can no longer live without her. Perhaps she may be the one who will become his future wife. They run to the mountain. Vasu in the process shouts that the world is so vast, and where can the hero find someone who will become his dear friend? He notices the entrance to the cave and goes in. He's looking for a dragon and wants to leave, but then the eyes of the dragon open, which, in a rage, screams about her husband and promises that she will not return. This is Mael's mom. Vasu asks Mrs. Mel not to be angry. She is in front of her daughter, so she must calm down. Vasu asks her if she and her husband had a fight. She screams in rage that this is much more serious. She decided to leave him alone to return to his homeland. If she says about returning to her homeland, then the dragon was born here. She asks if Vasu didn't come here from her husband. He talks about everything. The hero would not have thought that she would be the dragon. He says he'll just go back because she's kind. Mail hugs her mother. Vasu sees that she has calmed down and asks why she came here. She starts crying when she was cleaning the house. Ragnar? He found himself another female. Vasu is furious too. He has such a beautiful wife and daughter. The mother asks if he really understands the beauty of dragons. He shouts that if they were human, they would be considered beauties. She says that's why she came home to discuss it with her mom. Vasu asks if they have a chance that they will reconcile for the sake of Mael. She says let Ragnar apologize to his wife. Vasu says he has to do it. He asks if she was interested in him personally. She could have misunderstood. She begins to justify that he did it anyway. Who could it be? Vasu realizes that she has no solid evidence. Vasu says that he will bring Ragnar to her, and then they will be able to talk. Besides, this will not only calm the townspeople, but also baby Mael. If a woman does not want to be alone with her husband, then the hero can be a witness. The main character left Mael with her mother. The dragon says that Vasu is really very kind to everyone who will not leave someone in trouble. The vase comes to the castle. Ragnar, lying in the main hall, does not meet him in any way and hides his head. Ragnar begins to panic. Why is he here, and where is Mael? He briefly tells what happened. The dragon makes excuses and says that this did not happen. Vasu asks what he's going to do. He replies that he will bring her back. Vasu asks if he is going to apologize. He proudly raises his head and says that this is nonsense. Why should a dragon king like him do this? He thinks that it will be enough to tell her to come back. Vasu tries to explain that this is his wife and finds out if he did not cheat on Mel. He says that no, this female is called Carol. She tried to invite him to lunch. Since his friends were with him, he could not refuse. Vasu guesses everything himself, and Ragnar swears that nothing like this happened. Vasu screams that she is angry for obvious reasons. He also liked the attention from Carol. It is not so easy to let go, even if there was nothing between them. Vasu says he should apologize to her and put aside the title of king. He tells me to imagine what would happen if Mel went to lunch with another dragon and was left alone. Ragnar immediately starts a fire in the vase, not letting him say. Vasu keeps talking. Mel comes, and instead of apologizing, she just asks her husband to come back. Then the dragon would be able to forgive her. Ragnar thinks about it and says that no, he will become even more stubborn. Vasu informs him that Mel would be even more angry. Vasu says he has come to take him to Mel, who asks if she will forgive him. Vasu assures that she will forgive him if Ragnar promises not to accept invitations from Carol and apologizes wholeheartedly. Vasu asks to take care of Mel, and then lies down next to him to rest. He is tired after running all day long. Ragnar begs his forgiveness. The dragon asks about the harem. The hero replies that he only has male. The dragon does not understand why such a guy does not have a girlfriend. He replies that it is better not to talk about it because such speeches hurt him. Then the man sees that Mel is not alone. There is another one. At first he thought it was Carol, but it turned out to be Mel's mother. She's scolding her son-in-law. Then Mel flies to the vase and tells his grandmother, who turns and examines it. The main character is interested that something is wrong with him. She says she can't see the limit of his strength, Mel thinks. Mom, she planned for Mel to marry him in the future. The hero exclaims what they are all about. Mel's mother's name is Majil, and she is a former dragon queen. Vasu thinks to himself that Ragnar looks pathetic after apologizing and tries to dissuade them, saying it was a misunderstanding. Mel says that they are not angry because they knew that they simply did not understand each other, but the dragon wanted an apology in person and received only Ragnar's speech that he had come to apologize only for the vase. Vasu calls them selfish and wants to talk to Ragnar alone. Mel says that, of course, let them talk. The main character asks if he has apologized. Ragnar answers him in the affirmative. Vasu says that everything else depends on the whims of women. Vasu compares the situation with his parents and says that men usually invite women to a restaurant and treat them. Ragnar approaches Mel and Majil, bows to the ground and apologizes for everything. He will refrain from any contact with this female and distance himself from her. He promises to take care of his wife and says that he would like to take them to the same place and is going to send them to the human moon city. Vasu is worried about how they will go to Takimi City. Here, all the dragons are reincarnated and become human. He is shocked by their beauty. Majil tells him to take them to the city, but Mel remains in this guise. Serona, in search of Vasu, says that 10 days have passed. She asks into the void where the vase is now. Could he have sailed on a ship to another continent? But if you think about it, he couldn't have left without a guild card, and there's a big city nearby. She wonders if he will take her on a journey with him, as an adventurer understands that he could find other companions and create his own harem. Serona thinks that if this is the case, then there is still a place for her in the heart of her hero. After all, she refused him once, and after that, she hardly has a chance to join his harem. Then she hears a conversation. The man addresses a girl named Lula. She's talking to the loader who brought her bread. Serona approaches them because of the smell, but after realizing that she was drawn to this fragrance because the girl had not eaten for the last few days. Lula asks if she wants to try. Serona is shy. Lula says that everything is fine. Serona wants to pay, but she says that this does not need to be done. It's better to stay at their hotel, which is located not far from them. The two of them leave and get acquainted. Lula asks the girl if she is an elf. The defender answers in the affirmative. The girl asks Serona what brought her to their city. She replies that she is looking for someone. Lula asks to tell in more detail. She begins awkwardly and haltingly to describe the adventurer. Something inside her wants to protect him. The girl hoped that she would hear from Serona a description of his appearance. Embarrassed, the elf girl talks about her appearance and mentions a little dragon. Lula recognizes him and calls him by name. She tells her everything. Serona thought that they would never meet again. Lula then suggests to go to the city as soon as possible, asking if she just wants to return the card, and she left the village because of this. Lula asks if she used magic. Because the village of Elves is so far away, she replies that she walked. Lula is surprised that it's just for the sake of the vase. She sincerely asks because she loves the vase. The one with red cheeks screams that it is not so. Serona says that probably Vasu has already found a new partner, so he can't let him join him like this. Lula says he still travels by himself. Serona blushes. She exclaims if this is true, the idea, saying that she is not at all happy about this. Lula understands everything and says that the hero is now on Missy, which his father gave him, but she can wait for him at the hotel. On the way, Serona starts to get nervous and wonders if the guy will really accept her. They approach the hotel and see that the vase is already there. The girl blushes even more from this. Lula sees three strangers next to him. They ask who it is, and Serona fell into a stupor. She sadly thinks that he has already found new friends. And, he clarifies, that it is not strange that such a sympathetic person as Vasu has made new friends. The little girl turns around, telling the two elf not to hesitate and go to the vase, but she replies that everything is fine because she is only here to return the card. After that, she asks Lulu to turn the card over for her, and he runs away. Serona herself doesn't understand why she ran away from him. All she had to do was just call out his name, as it usually happens. She wanted to apologize to him and just ask to join his group. But why couldn't she do it? Why she did this, it makes her feel extremely depressed and, at the same time, lonely. Suddenly, she felt some strange sensations. She cries and does not understand what kind of chest pain it is. It seems that before she had time to realize, the girl had already fallen in love with the vase. Reagan asks Vasu if he really thinks he will believe in his fairy tales, and these people who are sitting on his right hand in front of him, the Dragon King and his family. Majil says he won't believe the words, so let him undo his transformation. There is a loud noise coming from the guildmaster's room. Emma asks what it was. Reagan shouts that he believes them and asks them to return back to human form. Vasu is happy that his mission is over. He is waiting for a reward, a new rank and a new guild card, and he also asks about good restaurants in the city. Vasu says that Reagan is going to give them a tour of the city personally. In any case, they will have to spend the night at this hotel. Lula comes up and tells about Serona, passes the map, the vase raises her head and thinks, where is Serona now? Mel tells her mother that she would never have thought that a human city would be such a beautiful place, and she agrees. Kayla says that just walking through the streets of the city is also good. She doesn't have much to do at the hotel today, so maybe they'll go have fun together. They enter the shooting range. Majil easily hits all the targets. Mel admires Mom, and Emma says she hit all the targets. At this time, the king is looking at the menu and thinks that he will order a lot of food. He thinks this is quite enough. Ragnar asks if he ordered too much. Vasu asks him if he has forgotten that they are dragons. Vasu says that they have to pick up Ragnar's costume. Let Reagan choose the best clothes that will make Mel's heart melt. He counts on him, and he confidently asks to leave it entirely to him. Vasu wants to leave. The king asks him not to leave. The hero tells him to stop relying on other people's help. This happened only because he angered Mel, then calms him down, saying that everything will be fine. Reagan asks if the same person has already returned his guild card, then let him come to the Adventurers Guild tomorrow morning. He will help him register. The main character awkwardly agrees with this. Vasu thinks that his card has returned to him safely. Even if Serona has come all this way just to get it back, then why didn't she want to see him again? He says out loud that she really hates him. Suddenly, someone is calling him. The goddess asks if he is not glad to meet again. He says that he is glad, but asks to tell about Serona. She is angry that he is talking about her again. She says she doesn't care about him anymore. The goddess asks if he has found new companions while she was away. He says that he has made new friends. The card asks in surprise if he hasn't formed a group with dragons. He explains that it's not like that at all. He's just here as an assistant. The goddess is convinced that Serona has misunderstood everything. Vasu asks what she just said. She replies that she doesn't take anything into her head. At this time, the family enjoys the meal. Mel eats and says that all the food here is amazing. She can eat it forever. The wife thanks her husband with a big smile, and Majil, wiping her mouth, asks for more of this yummy. Mel says she will forgive him and forget that incident once and for all. He had come all this way to apologize to her, and now she was in such luxury. She adds that it is still not worth drawing conclusions without properly understanding everything. She fell in love with a dragon who wouldn't dare hit on another female dragon, but she let her emotions get the better of her. She says that she is very sorry, but if she finds him with another woman again, she will not forgive him anymore. He hugs her and shouts that he loves her very much. She cries and says that she loves him too. Majil calmly says that the case is closed. The next day, Vasu cries because he was given 5 gold pieces instead of the 30 promised. He asks Emma if she's joking. The guildmaster told her to deduct 10 gold pieces for organizing a festive evening for the Dragon King and his family, another 10 for food at the hotel, the remaining 5 for food while they live here. Vasu doesn't understand why they decided to go to people without money. The girl asks to accept her condolences, but it's not that bad, because his rank rose to C in an instant, which means that he can take tasks with great rewards. He awkwardly thanks her. She says that if his rank rose to A at one time, it would be a surprise. To climb from C to S, you need to take a test, but Vasu was too strong for him. Nevertheless, he returned the card to himself, let him complete as many tasks as possible. Vasu returns to the hotel. Kayla congratulates him on his return. He awkwardly says that this is not his home, and you reply that everything is fine. He is kind of their bodyguard, so she does not mind. Vasu asks if he can leave mail with Kayla. It seems Reagan is calling him somewhere. She asks why he would entrust her to the neighbors who rented a room next to him. The hero is surprised by this, turns around to look, and when he sees a family of dragons, he replies that Reagan told him they could stay here. He does not understand why then he attributes it to the family of the guests. Mel thanks Vaz for taking care of them yesterday, including future expenses. Majil calls people greedy creatures. Even here they pay for everything. Vasu says that he leaves Mile and leaves. She just looked after him sadly. It seems, the mother says, she does not want Vasu to leave. Mel asks her not to worry. He will not do anything wrong, trying on the situation at the recent scandal. Ragnar is embarrassed, saying that he thought his wife had already forgiven him. Vasu says he will be back soon, so let her be a good girl and wait here. Mel looks at him sadly. On the way, Vasu asks what place he wants to show. He asks not to worry, they are not so far from the entertainment district. He talks about all sorts of places where they have fun. Reagan asks if he would mind if he introduced him to a girl, or even two, so that he could spend the night with them. Reagan tells about the brothel, asks Vasu to wait and not involve him in it, let Ragnar take it with him, since he's going to do it. He says he's not going to, he just wanted to visit the owner. Reagan asks the man if Vasu has never visited such places, because he is already of age. He admits that he has never. They enter the building. Reagan screams, looking for someone. A man greets them and says that they came early. The guildmaster presents the vase. The man's name is Garrett, and he's the owner. He is pleased to meet him, because he is so ambitious. Vasu awkwardly shakes his hand. Garrett asks to come in. He has prepared a special room. They see Vasu looking around and nervous. The man asks what's the matter, and Reagan explains that he has never been to such places before. They sit down on the sofa, the girls stand in front of them, and the hero is asked to choose one. At this time, Vasu thinks only of Serona. A lady with dark hair approaches them. Garrett praises her. Vasu recognizes her immediately, because he saved her from bandits. Tata, smiling sweetly at the audience, says that she is so glad to know that he still remembers her. Vasu tells everything, and so does Tata. She openly admits her love intentions for the Vas. Seeing Vasu's reaction, she asks if she is not good enough. He says that this is not the case and drinks. Garrett is talking to Tata at this time. Reagan tells the guy to wait. After all, the glass is his, with strong liquor. The vase spits out the drink and then just turns off. After a while, he wakes up from a headache and realizes that he is lying on Tata's lap. He asks himself, what's going on? The hero crawls away from her, saying that he is sorry. Tata says that he just fainted after drinking. She offers him water, he takes it and asks where they are and Reagan. She replies that this is her room, and he left, asking her to take care of him. Vasu apologizes for the inconvenience. She laughs and says that she is used to looking out for such people. Here, Tata begins to take off her clothes. Vasu closes her eyes in horror. She continues to approach and seduce him, saying that he can do anything with her. Vasu realizes that his heart is still not ready for this. The guy screamed and then asked the tattoo what she was going to do. The girl continued to hover over the guy and then said that she was going to spend the night with him to get to know him a little better. The hero excitedly asked, moving away from the girl, if they were in too much of a hurry with such events. Tata blushed and then apologized to him, saying that she could not have thought that Vasu had never seen a female body. To which the guy said that it was not the way the girl thought. Then he took the blanket, putting it in front of the girl. Vasu said they could just chat. He began to wrap the girl's body with a cloth, asking her not to offer herself to him as she was doing now. Blushing with embarrassment, the guy looked at the girl seriously, telling her that she should have appreciated herself much more. Hearing the guy's words, Tata froze at first, and then, lowering her head, let out a laugh, which turned into a real and loud laugh. The guy looked excitedly at the laughing girl, not understanding what he had said so funny. The girl tried to stop laughing, explaining that it was the first time she had heard a customer of this place say something like that. The guy looked at the girl in surprise, who continued to laugh again, and then called the guy by name. She smiled at the guy, pressing her hand to her chest, saying that Vasu was really so strange and kind. Then she thought about how she felt like a bad woman at that moment. She couldn't believe that she had tried to deceive someone as honest as a vase. The guy was a little surprised by the girl's words. Then she said that she accidentally spied how Vasu defeated 3 adventurers in front of the wind in a bright gazebo hotel. Then she persuaded Reagan to give the guy to the girl for a while. Vasu asked, sitting opposite the girl on the bed, why she was doing this. The girl only said that Vasu was a very strong man, so she thought that maybe he could lend his power to Tata. Then the guy realized that those Tata's pursuers were still trying to find her. Then the guy thought that this problem turned out to be much stronger than he thought. He told the girl not to worry and left it all on the vase. Then he asked who he needed to deal with. Listening to the guy, the girl doubtfully asked, clarifying whether he really did not need a reward. The guy just smiled, saying that Tata didn't have to worry because he didn't need the money. The girl was embarrassed, saying that she didn't mean it. She looked away and awkwardly said that she had never paid him for his help. And so she offered if he would agree to borrow his power, Tata was ready to do anything. Vasu squeezed the girl's shoulders in his palms, and then repeated again that he could not leave a person in trouble all alone. He smiled, looking at the girl, and said, because the girl was now also helping him to brighten up his loneliness. At first, the girl blushed embarrassedly, and then pouted resentfully. She asked if she really seemed so lonely in the guy's eyes. Hearing the girl's words, Vasu was scared because he thought that the girl was now angry with him. Then Tata averted her embarrassed gaze, saying that she had a feeling that the guy saw through her and therefore he embarrassed her by saying such words. The guy laughed in relief, closing his eyes. Then he asked Tata if he could hear her story. The girl agreed with him but asked in return that Vasu also tell his story. And so the girl began her story. She worked at this place to pay off her father's debt, and the people who harassed her were collectors. These guys were very strong, and therefore one of her friends guarded the tattoo. But even this did not help her, because collectors without any hesitation came to her work to kidnap the girl. And then, in desperation, she called the vase, hoping for his help. The guy listened thoughtfully to the girl, realizing that those guys behaved like pigs. Then the girl continued the story, that even now her parents were doing everything possible to raise money for the girl, and to help them, she began to work in this place. After listening to Tata's story, he decided that he would talk to that person for the sake of the girl, and then she would be able to return back to her parents. But the girl began to stop the guy, saying that he would not succeed. After all, he wouldn't be able to fight him no matter how strong Vasu was. The guy didn't understand why the girl was saying that. Then she asked him not to do it. And the guy heard how the girl was afraid for him, because if he did, then after the vase, he would not be able to stay in this city. The girl put her fists on the sheets, saying that he shouldn't have gone so far for her. If the guy really wanted to help her, but she didn't want anything more for herself than just protection from the thugs who were chasing her. She looked at the guy confidently, promising that she would definitely pay off all her father's debts and return freedom with her own hands. But she was afraid that they would not let Tata leave so easily. The guy was mesmerized by the beautiful and serious girl who asked him to protect her from those thugs. The guy chuckled, saying that he would accept her offer, but in return, when she felt that she was in real danger, she had not to endure but to call the guy wherever she was. The guy smiled encouragingly, promising that he would immediately run to her aid if she demanded it. The girl wanted to say something to the guy, but he noticed that he saw in her eyes that she took everything very seriously, and therefore Vasu said that he would support any decision she made. The girl looked hopefully at the guy who ran to help her with all the strength he had. Then Tata smiled happily, telling the guy that she was very grateful to him. Then the girl turned the conversation around, asking why Vasu decided to become an adventurer. The guy began to stumble in his answer. Then she asked if he had something he wanted to achieve. After a little thought, the guy replied that most likely he wanted to create a group of girls. Tata supported the guy, saying that she was completely confident in her words, because the guy could make a harem at any moment, because Vasu was really kind. The guy admitted that many people had told him something similar, but then asked the girl to notice that he was still alone. Upon hearing this, the girl smiled and then offered herself for the role of the first lover. The guy immediately blushed, surprised by the girl's offer, and when she saw such a guy, Tata said that she was just joking, because she remembered that he would not like such a dirty girl like her. But Vasu quickly denied this, and putting his hands on the girl's shoulders, said that this was not the case at all. The girl smiled at the guy's honest reaction, noting that the guy was a really kind person. They looked at the hourglass, thinking that they had quite a lot of time, and now they didn't know what else to do. Then Vasu suggested that Tate tell him more about this city, tell him about the good restaurants and picturesque places in the area. He also wanted to say that he had arrived in this city quite recently, and therefore did not understand how to navigate there. The girl smiled, and then said that she would be glad to help him, and they spent that night talking. Time passed, and night turned into morning. Birds were chirping outside the window when Tata sleepily opened her eyes. She raised herself up in her arms, not understanding when she managed to fall asleep, and then she opened her eyes in surprise. The girl quickly began to inspect her body for any changes, and then blushed embarrassedly. She was very surprised that Vasu really hadn't done anything to her. From these thoughts, the girl blushed even more, pressing her palms to her burning cheeks, and then she looked at the sleeping guy who did not even wake up. Looking at the guy, she immediately remembered his words yesterday that she should have appreciated herself much more. Her eyes sparkled, then she hid her face in her hands, realizing that this was the first time she had met such a person. Someone who was so worried about her. The guy yawned loudly and long, coming out of sleep, and then stretched, thinking that he had slept well. Then he looked at the part of the bed where the Tata was supposed to beat, but apart from a small piece of paper he saw nothing. Looking closer, Vasu realized that it was Tata's business card. Walking down the hall, the guy read what was written on the business card. The girl wrote and asked that the guy could come to her at any time, because she wanted to hear more about his story. The guy happily thought that Tata liked his story, and then thought that it was time for him to return, because Mael was most likely waiting for him. But the guy's thoughts were interrupted by the rude words of a stranger. The guy just turned around at the voice, not understanding what was wanted from him. The girl looked at the guy with hostility, and then told the guy not to get anything into his head just because he spent the night with Tata. Then the girl said that Tata would never take a guy like Vasu seriously for anything in her life. Then the guy agreed with the girl's evil words, to which she said with displeasure that he at least tried to express denial of her words. Then the girl told the guy never to come to them again, but Vasu apologized to the stranger, saying that he couldn't do it. The girl was not satisfied with the guy's impudence, to which Vasu said that Tata herself asked him to come again. The guy showed the girl a business card. She was surprised that Tata would give a business card to such an insignificant guy. Vasu noticed again that the girls called him names, and then a stranger said that the guy couldn't come to them anyway. The girl turned away from the guy, and then said that right now, Tata and the others had almost succeeded, so they couldn't let everything go to waste because a guy accidentally joined them. Then she threw the guy out of the building, telling him not to come to them anymore, closing the door behind him. The girl heard from Vasu that she shouldn't have been so rude, to which she only grunted. The girl knew that the owner said that this guy was pretty strong, but that didn't mean to her that they could trust him. She started walking down the hallway, thinking that Nenya was the only one who could protect the tattoo from the bad guys. Vasu was walking around the city. A dragon lay on his head, which the guy asked not to sulk, and then said, "Cheer up, male." The guy said that he was gone for only one night, and besides, he didn't do any strange things. Male spoke up. Then the guy understood, and asked the dragon not to tell him that she was jealous of him. At these words, Male began to beat the guy's face with her paws. Then the guy offered the dragon as an apology to let the guy treat her as an apology, and then he said that Tata had told him about many good places in this city. Then Male attacked the guy again, and he did not understand what he could say. But suddenly, a familiar voice called him. The dragon and the guy broke away from the fight, looking away. Tata smiled, surprised at such a coincidence, and then greeted the guy. The guy was also glad to meet the girl. Vasu honestly said, that he did not expect them to meet again, and then asked if the girl went shopping. The girl replied that she was following them, and then asked the same question to the Vas. The guy hugged the dragon, saying that he was on a date with Mael, to which the dragon made a satisfied sound. Looking at such a picture, Tata noticed that the two were very close. Then she gasped, saying that she had completely forgotten to introduce the vase to her bodyguard, who was praised by Nenya. The guy finally found out the name of the rude girl who just frowned. Vasu reached out to shake the girl's hand in greeting, but she only hit the guy on the arm. Tata explained to her friend that she shouldn't have done that. But the guy had already guessed that Nenya hated him. Nenya only called the little dragon that sat on her arm. The girl whispered to Mail to leave with her for a moment, but she did not understand. Then Nenya asked her if Mail could not read the mood of the vase and Tata. Then the girl turned to Tata and asked if she could play with the dragon. To this, Tata replied that she did not mind. Then Nenyu said that the girl could not worry about her, adding that Vasu would be responsible for transferring purchases. The guy wanted to object to the girl, but she took him by the scarf, and then quietly asked if the guy didn't want to get closer to Tata, and therefore he had to be a man. The guy did not even have time to object to Nenya, as she took the dragon with her, began to move away from the couple, saying that they would meet soon. Vasu asked what was on Nenyu's mind, then Tata smiled, saying that her friend wanted to give them some time. The guy still didn't understand why she did it, to which the girl offered him to use this time. They moved towards the market when Vasu asked what they needed to buy. The girl thought that she needed to buy cosmetics and clothes, and then added that she wanted to buy some jewelry for the girls in the mansion. Walking along the streets, Tata did not want to spend money, but those girls were kind to her and she wanted to say thank you to them as a gift. Soon he came to a jewelry store, which looked more like a small shop. Upon entering the store, the girl noticed that jewelry was treated carefully in such shops, and after they were greeted by the seller, Tata looked at the rings in the window with interest, noticing that they looked cute. And while she hummed a tune, picking up jewelry, Vasu looked warily towards the window. Evil eyes stared at him from the darkness that was between the buildings across the street. She frowned as the shadow disappeared. And while he was thinking about what it was, the girl called out to the guy, asking what was the matter. But Vasu went to the exit, telling the girl to wait for him a little, and then asked her not to even try to go outside. The guy walked resolutely into a narrow and dark alley, and when he saw a group of people, he asked what they needed. One of the strangers just chuckled, who did not think that the guy would come to them himself. Then Vasu assumed that those men were collectors, to which one of them only laughed, saying that the guy did not know anything at all. The other man, clenching his fist, said that now that Nenyu was not next to Tata, they could get rid of the guy, and then he attacked the vase, saying that after that the girl would definitely become theirs. Without losing his vigilance, Vasu deftly defused the attacker, who fell behind the hero. The others didn't understand what this guy had done to the man. They attacked the vase, but the guy quickly dealt with them, knocking them out. Then, cursing, the guy pushed the attackers away, bored thinking about why he received such punishment. The bodies behind him fell to the ground, and then the guy looked into the darkness, from where a knowing voice was coming. Vasu looked at the girl in surprise, who began to come out of the darkness, saying that she had heard that Vasu was really strong. Nenya smiled, continuing to hold the dragon in her arms, noticing that the guy was even stronger than the girl had expected. The guy was surprised, but then Mayel jumped joyfully into his arms. Nenya also said that the dragon told her that the guy was much stronger than he looked at first glance. Then the guy realized that she was checking him out with the help of those guys. Nenya agreed with his words because she wanted to make sure if she could entrust Tata's protection to him. The girl also said that she would come to his aid if it became too dangerous and if the guy could not cope with them. Then she looked at the guys lying down, realizing that this was not necessary. She could not have imagined that Vasu would be able to defeat them alone and in an instant. Nenya didn't want to admit that she trusted the guy now, but she understood that Vasu was stronger than her. Then she thought about whether the guy was worthy of knowing the truth. The guy was interested in what the girl was saying. Nenya told the guy, but in fact, Tata's debt was an invention invented by the lord of the city. This lord was harassing the girl's family with a false debt that never existed. As a result, he demanded a ridiculous amount of money that the girl's family would not be able to pay. He took the tattoo on bail because he originally wanted to make it his own. This lord was the most human that ever was. And when Vasu heard the girl's story, he looked at Nenya with horror and could not just believe it. Mail lay sadly on her mother's lap, who noticed that the dragon looked sadder. Stroking Mail, she realized that her daughter was really in love with the vase. After that, Grandma noticed that the guy never came back, even though he promised that he would return soon. The man listened with displeasure to the woman, who could not have thought that Vasu would fall in love with her charming granddaughter. Then Ragnar approached Mail and invited her to take a walk with him in the fresh air, and then he promised to buy his daughter everything she wanted. To this, the woman only scolded her daughter's husband, saying that he was pathetic if he tried to win his daughter's heart with gifts. Ragnar's wife agreed with her mother, because if her husband gives her everything their daughter wanted, then he will not get her respect, to which the man said that he just wanted to cheer up Mael. Grandma asked him if he couldn't think of something else. After all, with gifts, he could give her the fatherly love that she had never expected from him. Sometime later, Ragnar was walking down the corridor, thinking that he had told his mother-in-law many times that this was an impossible task for him, and when she got angry, she continued to escalate. On the way, he met his friend, who asked Ragnar what had happened. The same one asked if he had seen the vase, since that guy had not returned. Then Reagan smiled, realizing who he was talking about. And sitting at the table, the man told a friend that he had provided a guy to a girl named Tata. He also said that this girl was in danger, and Reagan was sure that if Vasu stood up for the tattoo, he would be able to protect her no matter what kind of people attacked her. Ragnar agreed with his friend's decision and admitted that Vasu, thanks to his strength, could handle it, because his daughter recognized the guy. Reagan looked at his friend in surprise, who suddenly said that he was jealous of Vaz because he could safely go on adventures with his daughter. The man continued to listen to complaints that Mael was sad because she was not happy with the vase, and when Ragnar wanted to cheer her up, but he was scolded first by his wife and then by his mother-in-law. Then Reagan told his friend that this was how the world worked, and he also had a daughter. He also said that when he spoiled his daughter, his wife also scolded him. But he understood that his daughter would leave them one day and go her own way, so he believed that fathers needed to pamper them and make every effort for the children to respond to their love. Ragnar listened to his friend with tears in his eyes, and then he said that he understood his feelings perfectly, so they had to pamper their daughters while it was possible. They promised that they would buy them what they wanted, and when they had guys, they would beat them first, and then they would ask them questions. Then their main reward will be the recognition of their daughters. Ragnar did not think that he would find a person who could understand him, and when they listened to him, he felt better. Suddenly, Vasu came to the house and then apologized for being late, asking where Mael was. And just as Ragnar wanted to scold the guy for making his daughter sad, Mael flew at the guy, hitting him in the jaw. The dragon continued to beat the guy, who began to apologize to her and asked Mael not to get mad at him. Ragnar frowned at them, noticing that his daughter was very angry, thinking that Mael had never beaten her father. Then the guy suggested that Mael take a walk. She clarified, and Vasu agreed that this would be their date. Then the dragon blushed in embarrassment and then joyfully sat on the head of the guy who praised Mael. Ranger watched as his daughter and boyfriend began to leave the house. Then Rhaegar noticed that the heart of his friend's daughter was already occupied. The man fell down, realized that he had lost, but then he turned around when he was called out. Rhaegar's daughter came into the room, reminding her father that it was time to cook dinner. She then greeted the Dragon King. He looked at his friend in surprise, not believing that this girl was Rhaegar's daughter. He just smiled, noting that his daughter was the most wonderful treasure in the whole world. Then the girl smiled, saying that she was going to help her father with cooking. Then she invited Reingeir to join them. And while the girl was hugging the man, he thought that the pain had left him. And then he mentally asked Mael to forget about the vase and spend more time with her father. Tatu turned around when Vasu returned to the jewelry store. She ran up to the frowning guy. Tatu turned to the young man. The girl asked where he had gone, and then reminded him that he was her bodyguard, so he should not have left her alone. Then she hugged the guy's hand, saying that Nenya would not be able to do something like that. But the guy remained silent. The girl called out to him, after which Vasu firmly grabbed her by the shoulders, which Tata did not expect. He started telling the girl that she didn't have to worry about anything. He said that when he was with her, she didn't have to worry. The girl only blushed, and then the guy asked her to be sure. The girl smiled happily, and then thanked the guy for his passionate words that touched her heart deeply. Then she patted the guy's hair, who blushed and frowned in embarrassment. Nenya might have told him that story, but he understood that Tata was hiding something. After all, when she told him about the debt, in fact, she was obliged to pay off to the lord of the city, who had power and influence. All these debts were in order to make the tattoo his property. This debt was just a fake. Then, in order to protect the girl, the parents did everything possible, cutting all expenses to pay off the fake debt. Tata herself took harsh measures and sold herself, but at the same time, she found allies. And all of them were now gathering evidence in order to prove that the debt was not real. As he knew, they were close to revealing the truth, but the Lord was not idle either, as his lies would soon be revealed. He was sending mercenaries to get a tattoo of him, but then Vasu appeared. Then the guy decided that he would also help Tata and teach this lord a lesson. And while Vasu was thinking about it, a girl came up to them and offered her help. The guy looked at the girl in confusion and then said that they were looking for souvenirs. The consultant smiled and then admitted that she thought Vasu was looking for something for his girlfriend. Tata was very surprised, and after the saleswoman noticed that she had goods for couples, Tata blushed even more, not believing the girl's words. Vasu awkwardly put his hand on the back of his head, telling the girl that she was embarrassing him with her words. Then Tata timidly asked if she could look like a normal girl as she walked next to Vasu, hugging his arm. The guy looked at the tattoo in surprise, and then noticed that she had already wrapped her arms around his arm. And then he explained that he wanted to say that she was a normal girl. Then he smiled sheepishly, thinking that he thought the tattoo was more beautiful than just a normal girl. But Tata interrupted him, saying that wasn't what she meant. Then she sadly looked away, closing her eyes and remembering what she was doing. Memories sprang up in her mind. The girl squeezed Vasu's hand even tighter. She hugged the guy's hand tightly. Tata thought that her heart had died long ago when she began to sell herself, but now it seemed like a flower bloomed in that instant. Tata and Vasu looked at the two wedding rings. The girl said admiringly that they were beautiful. Vasu turned around, saying that there were a lot of things in the shop, and then thought that he could buy something for Mael. Then the guy smiled, thinking that he could afford to buy something. At this time, Tata was looking at those two rings with interest. Tata looked at the saleswoman, wondering about these rings. She was very interested in what was engraved on them. The saleswoman then explained that on the man's ring it was written, "I'm next to you, dear." Tata looked at the guy with hope when the saleswoman said that on the woman's ring it was written, "I'm only looking at you." Tata repeated the last sentence, looking at the rings in her palms. Then she looked at the vase again, wondering if she could have made such a wish. She pressed her hands to her chest, thinking about how hard her heart was beating right now. She abruptly called Vasu, who immediately turned to the girl. Then the girl held out the ring in front of him and, blushing and embarrassed, asked him to put it on. They were standing by the window, carefully examining the jewelry on their fingers in the light. The girl was overcome by a strange feeling, because when she was next to Vasu, her heart was beating fast, like a normal girl in love. Then the girl hesitated, asked permission from Vasu so that she could give him this ring. The guy was a little surprised. Then the girl said not to take it into her head, explaining that she was grateful to him because he accompanied her as a bodyguard. Then the guy said that he usually fought with his bare hands. Therefore, he was afraid to break the ring even if he accepted the gift. To this, the girl suggested that he wear this ring when he goes on a date with Tata. She also didn't want the guy to get in the way of anything in the fight. Then the guy promised to wear the ring at their next meeting. Tata smiled, accepting his promise, and then thought about how she could do something so brazen that she was ashamed of herself. After a while, when Vasu saw the girl off, she apologized to him for forcing him to accompany him to the mansion. The guy replied that everything was fine because he was her bodyguard. Nenya praised the guy for his good work, saying that they were counting on him. The guy just smiled, and then thought that it was time for him to rest a little. Then he waved goodbye to the girl, and thanked the tattoo for the gift of the ring. Tata looked after him lovingly. Nenya couldn't believe the words she heard, but Tata said not to tell Nenya anything because she might misunderstand everything. To this, Nenya only said that she had not said anything yet. Night fell, and the stars were already in the sky when Mael angrily beat a guy who did not understand what was happening, and then reminded Mael that nothing would happen to him if she continued to bite and beat him. Then the guy realized what she was talking about, looking at the ring on her finger. Mael only got angrier at this, and then hit the guy in the stomach. Then Mael's mom asked her daughter to stop, otherwise she could destroy the hotel. Hugging her daughter, she explained that human buildings were very fragile. At that moment, Ragnar angrily said if Mael hadn't been angry, he would have hit the guy. And then he explained it by saying that Vasu exchanged rings with Tatu after he seduced his daughter. But the guy tried to explain that he had received the ring as a gift. To this, Ragnar said that during the time he was protecting the tattoo, the guy could get very close to her. Then Majil said that her son-in-law was stupid and asked not to complicate things even more for Mael. She suggested that everyone listen to the vase, because nothing like that happened. Then the guy awkwardly thanked Majil. Then she seriously turned to the guy with the fact that if the guy lied to them, then she didn't care how strong he was, she would gather all the dragons and bring down their power on the guy to punish him. He said fearfully that he would not like it. Then he called Mael, saying that he had a gift for her. He thought that this piece of jewelry could look beautiful on Mael. The dragon flew up to the guy when he said that she helped him a lot, while the guy did not repay her kindness in any way. He apologized to Mael. She enthusiastically picked up the gift, and then was so moved that she began to cry. Mael snuggled up to the guy who thought she didn't like the gift. Machel told the guy to rest because her granddaughter was happy with the gift. Mael's mom was touched that the guy was thinking about her daughter even when he was with another woman. Ranger was only saddened that his daughter never showed him tears when he gave her gifts. Then the dragon asked if she could sleep with Vasu, which amazed her mother with such courage. At that moment her father shouted that he would not forgive this Vas. Morning came. Vasu said sleepily and discontentedly that his whole body ached. He then added that Mael had been messing around too much in her sleep, but she was just lying on the bed contentedly. Vasu thought that it was time for him to wake up, but suddenly a girl burst into his room, and then she froze when she saw the guy lying on the floor. The vase was still lying on the floor. Then the girl asked if he wanted to die as a human being or perform another unreasonable task. The guy thought about it and chose the second option, because this way he had a better chance of staying alive. They were sitting in a bar when the girl told him about the poisonous swamp. She informed him that a poisonous swamp had suddenly been discovered in the forest south of Lunik, which began to spread before they knew about it. The girl also said that there were no casualties yet, but soon the swamp could overtake the city if they did not take care of it. Then the guy realized that they were looking for an adventurer who had resistance to poison. Vasu encouraged the girl, saying that the poison would not be able to affect him in any way. But the girl asked again what level of poison could annul the vase. To this question, the guy happily said that the poison did not affect him, and then showed a document saying that almost everything would have no effect. Then she realized how monstrous he was, and she was not happy that Vasu had told her about it just now. Then she handed the guy a document, saying that his task for that day was to explore the poisonous swamp, and then asked him to take care of it. After a while, Vasu stood at the gate, saying that there was a strong poison there, and therefore he could not take Mael with him. He explained to Mael that it would be very bad if anything happened to her, so she had to be a good girl and wait for his return. Ragnar thought about it, and then said that he was wondering why the sky had been overcast lately, and then realized what the reason was. After that, Mael's mom warned the guy that there were no swamps that appeared from nowhere. She assumed that the swamp was caused by some kind of cataclysm, and then asked the vase to be careful there. The guy said that it would be good because he would finish it completely quickly, as he usually did. Ragnar thought about it, thinking that he had a bad feeling, and then told Vaz to take him with him. The guy was a little surprised. Then Vasu asked if the man could handle the poison, to which Ragnar told the guy not to look down on him. The man said that he fully realized how strong the guy was, but Ragnar could also be relied on, at least sometimes. He said to look at him, because he was the Dragon King. But Vasu replied that in human form, Ragnar looked only like a useless father. Then Ragnar began to turn into a dragon, saying that in any case he wanted to go on an adventure with the guy. The dragon could fly to that forest in an instant. And then he asked if it wouldn't be easier for the guy. Scratching his head, Vasu replied that he would rely on Rangira. The guy climbed on the dragon, and when they took off, Vasu said goodbye to the female part of the Ragnira family. And so they flew away. The women escorted them out, and then Majil said that the poisonous swamp could not create such clouds. She was sure that there was someone involved in all this, and Mel completely agreed with her mother. Mel said something really terrible was coming. Mael looked sadly after the vase. At this time, someone was cursing the vase. They were surprised at how strong the guy was. One of them even still had a sore wound. And if it wasn't for the dragon's breath, they would have dealt with the guy long ago. Then, one of the guys told a rumor that Basu was a real dragon tamer, and many said that he was even able to tame the Dragon King. Then, they assumed that the guy had eaten the red sphere, which was rumored to be endowed with power, but they also said that no one could keep their sanity after swallowing it. And, most likely, Vasu had no other way to tame the dragon. The stranger then praised the talking guys for their intelligence. He said that this realm continued to improve, and right at this moment, they could obtain its power without any side effects. One of them asked who the stranger was, to which he replied that he was an ordinary merchant, and then he said that the irresistible adventurer had exactly the same sphere. Those did not believe the words of an unknown merchant, to which he said that he had such a sphere. Then he said that he wanted to sell this sphere at a high price in this city, but for these guys he wanted to make an exception by giving them a discount. Then one of the guys told the stranger to mind his own business, to which he asked if they didn't want to become stronger. Then he took out a sphere, promising that with it the guys could become stronger, so much stronger that they could defeat the Dragon King. Then one of the adventurers reminded that the merchant wanted to give them a discount, and he agreed. Thanking for the purchase, the unknown merchant began to move away from the guys, and then stopped, asking if they knew where the estate of the lord of this city was located. Meanwhile, Tata was sitting near the window. Ranger and Vasu were already flying towards the swamp, having seen smoke rising from the forest. Vasu covered his face with his palm, noticing that the smell was too disgusting even from a distance. Vasu compared it to the purple miasma trying to engulf the forest, to which the Dragon King invited them to enter the forest anyway. Then Ragnar added, if the forest was sick enough, then his fiery breath should have been enough to solve this problem, which Vasu forbade the dragon to do. Then Vasu explained it by saying that Ragnar would turn the forest into a barren wasteland if he burned everything there, and that would be bad. Then Ragnar asked what they were going to do when they found the swamp, and then I asked the guy if he could use any other magic. Ragnar looked at the guy in surprise, marveling at his calmness. Sometimes he wondered where in the whole world Vasu got so much confidence from. He thought that he had the perfect chance, and then turned into a human form. Ragnar thought he could follow him now and see how strong Vasu was. Vasu wondered, besides animals, he also did not notice insects in the forest. Then he asked Ragnar if he really did not feel anything but the miasma around, because the guy was starting to feel awkward. Then the dragon assumed that small animals would not be able to stay in the forest for more than 5 minutes. Then the guy asked Ragnar to notice that the smell was similar to fresh citrus fruits. The dragon was a little surprised by this comparison. Then Ragnar asked where Vasu got that superhuman strength from, and the guy asked not to ask him about it. After all, he still wasn't sure himself. The only thing he knew was that Mael had saved him. The guy wondered if it started after that strange fruit that Mael gave him, or if it was because of the goddess who lived in his card and saved him. Vasu could not give an exact answer. Then Ragnar suggested that the guy then wished that he did not want to die, and then the guy thought about it. He remembered what he had thought then, that he did not want to die, and then he told the dragon that he did not want to end his life as a pathetic person. Ragnar thought about it, realizing that the guy wanted to be endowed with power, and it is possible that then he could not think of anything else. Then the guy added that he hadn't even trained since that moment, and at that moment he was very hungry and put everything in his mouth that came to hand. Then he eats poisonous mushrooms and any bones lying on the ground. Then his stats started to change every time he ate strange things, but the guy doubted that it could be called a buildup of strength. Then Ragnar said that he had lived for several centuries, but this was the first time he had heard such a story. From the divine protection and his daughter's affection for the guy, to the trust of the people the guy met. Then the Dragon King suggested that the guy had the power to attract people to his side. He awkwardly put his hand on the back of his head, not believing that the man really thought so. And then he said that he still had no friends who were human. Then Ragnar said that he would have been his friend, and now he was in human form if the guy hadn't noticed. After that, the guy said that then he decided for himself that he shouldn't have eaten everything. Then the dragon asked, why did he decide that, if then he could become even stronger? The guy just smiled, replied that he was afraid that he could become even stronger and eventually would cease to be human. And the Dragon King looked at the guy knowingly. When they came to the swamp, Ragnar noticed that the miasma had become even more, so he told Vaz to be careful, but he said that he would be fine. Then Vasu told the man to stand for a while, saying that Mel understood the reason for the appearance of the poisonous swamp. A toothy monster was looking at them from the forest, who came to greet them. The heroes stared at the monster, began to walk towards them, liquid dripped from the wolf. Ragnar told Vaz not to touch the monster, because its poison corroded the soil, which increased the swamp in size, and one such drop of poison could kill a person. Vasu realized that all they had to do was defeat this monster, and then they would have dealt with the poison. 100 times Ragnar asked the guy not to say that easily, because the monster's poison was deadly. Then the dragon said that he would have to use his fiery breath. Vazu interrupted him. It seemed to him that the monster's body consisted only of poison, and then the guy had to hit this monster. Ragnar did not understand what Vasu was going to do, because if he went into battle, he could die. The adventurer then jumped on the monster, telling the man that he needed to believe something. Vasu froze, saying that he felt something and then used magic, which made Ragnar look at the guy in surprise. The man was surprised at how easily the guy dealt with the monster. To this, Vasu assumed that the goddess had helped him, and therefore he was able to strike. He then admitted that he was worried when his fist went through the tangent. Ragnar told the guy to brag less about his strength, and then noticed that the vase turned the monster into a puddle. Then the guy noticed something. There was something strange in the puddle. He picked up the object, examining the red pearl, and as he remembered correctly, that villain had something similar. Ragnar asked if the guy had seen such an object before, but he said it could have been his imagination. But then the pearl broke in his hands. Then the dragon assumed that he had said that they had completed the task, but Vasu reminded him that they had to stop the spread of the swamp. He then referred to Emma's story, which suggested surrounding the swamp with a huge barrier, and then they would burn it down. Then he realized that this method was no different from what Ragnar was trying to do. Then the guy bent down to the swamp, reaching out to him with his hand, to which the dragon told him not to do it. But the guy did not listen to him, after which he tasted the poison, which the Dragon King was even more amazed at. The man shouted for the guy to spit out the poison, but he noticed that the poison had a rather pleasant taste. Vasu smiled, saying that the poison had a sweet and sour taste reminiscent of citrus. Then he suggested that there was something he could have done. He thought that he could have drunk all the poison and then plunged his head into the swamp, but the man shouted at him to stop. Ranger wanted to stop the guy, but he kept drinking. Periodically, the guy surfaced to breathe, and then started drinking the swamp again, which the man had to put up with. After a while, Vasu was breathing heavily, sitting on the ground with a stomach full of poison. He was pleased with the taste of the poison. He did not think there was more liquid than he expected. At this time, Rangir was sitting on the sidelines and thought about how he almost threw up because he was worried about the guy. The guy only smiled at the man's worries, and then said that now the forest was safe, the swamp had not reached the moon, so everything could be fine. Suddenly, the ground around them began to glow. They did not understand if such a thing could be possible. Suddenly, the light flashed brightly, engulfing the vase. The guy did not understand what was happening and why the light surrounded him. Then the voice thanked the kind adventurer, after which the guy's eyes began to close, thinking about whose voice he had heard. Ragnar watched as the light began to fade, and then he looked fearfully at the unconscious body of the vase. He hurriedly approached the guy, trying to bring him back to consciousness, but the vase only mumbled, and after Ragnar noticed that the guy's stomach was gone. As the Dragon King had expected, looking at the guy, Vasu attracted something really egregious. The Dragon King began to fly in the direction of the city, with Vasu lying unconscious on his back. He began to think about the fact that the guy's strength was far beyond understanding, and the guy was ignorant. But at the same time, he was a kind-hearted guy who wanted to use force to help others. Then Ragnar thought that maybe that was why Mael adored the guy, and therefore the Dragon King had to sincerely acknowledge his daughter's choice. He ran that he would lend the guy his power when he needed the vase. The dragon happily thought that from now on they would become best friends forever. The next day, Regan came to the guy, thinking that he was glad that he could rely on Vasu, who was able to cope with such a task. Then he noticed that the guy looked a little sickly, to which Vasu said that he just had a little stomachache. The man could not believe that the guy was able to cope with the swamp without setting it on fire, and then asked the guy not to say that he drank the whole swamp. Regan then apologized to the guy for giving him such difficult tasks. He understood that the guy was strong and asked Vasu not to overestimate his strength. The man got up to leave, saying that he would present the award to the guy later, after which he told Vaz to gain strength. But the guy was not destined to rest. After all, Nenya came in the morning, who said that Tata wanted to meet with Vasu. Regan wasn't sure if the guy was fit to go to the meeting, but the guy explained that it wasn't like that at all. The girls just wanted to thank him for solving the problem with the swamp. Regan understood the guy, because Lunik was also in danger, and he could not be ignored. Then the man wanted to talk more about tattoos. He said they got enough evidence to corner the Lord, and this Lord also did a lot of nasty things behind the scenes. Regan then said that they were going to sue the next day when they had finished gathering the necessary evidence, and Vasu was glad of this because then Tata could be free. Then the guy thought that Tata could become his first human girlfriend. Regan assumed that the Lord could have taken drastic measures already that night. He could have tried to steal the tattoo, and it was more likely that's why Regan wanted to ask the guy to stay with the girl. Noticing that the guy is not going to get better yet, Vasu just smiled contentedly, saying that the man could provide it to him. But suddenly, the guy felt sick, which made him feel sick, but Reagan told the guy not to dare to do it in his hotel. After a while, the guy was walking down the street of the city, thinking that he felt terrible. He thought that he would cope with the poison, thanks to resistance, but now he did not understand what was happening to him. The goddess from the card was outraged. She did not understand what the guy was thinking, and the guy himself could not understand the anger of the goddess. Then she angrily said that Vasu had decided to invite another woman to the map. The guy was a little confused. The goddess explained that she was talking about the goddess of Mother Earth. Then another female voice rang out, which suggested that Vasu wanted to create a harem, and then said that it was good that she was next to a guy. The unknown goddess thanked the guy again for saving the forest and the earth. The guy replied in confusion that he could have been addressed. The goddess of Mother Earth said that she was touched when she saw how the guy tried to save the forest, whose kindness saved those lands, and then offered to show the guy proof of her love and gratitude. She said she blessed him with divine power, but the guy panicked and asked the goddess to stop because he didn't need another blessing. Then the light came on, and the guy noticed that his card had changed. He began to examine the map carefully. The card said that the guy was now undefeatable, and because of this, Vasu was unhappy that he had risen in rank again. He was upset that the stats that said he was human had dropped a bit again. The guy assumed that his pain was caused by an increase in the level. Then the goddess suggested that he think of it as an increase in pain, and while the guy continued on his way, the goddess said that the guy should soon get used to the pain, and then offered the guy to rest somewhere, and he was already thinking about it. Vasu was thinking that he had to go to the mansion, and did not notice a stranger on his way. He apologized for pushing him, but the stranger said it was his own fault. Then the merchant noticed that the guy was pale, like a ghost, offering him an antidote. The guy realized that the stranger was a merchant, and he said that although he did not have high-quality goods, he had medicine that Vasu had to look at. Then Vasu offered to take a look at the medicine, because the guy just needed to rest a little. And the merchant did not insist on the goods, telling the guy that he had to rest, and then apologized for the trouble. Then the merchant looked into the adventurer's eyes, smiling strangely at him. Vasu didn't understand what was going on. The merchant walked away from the guy, saying that Vasu could not be so irresponsible, but the adventurer continued to understand nothing. Then the merchant waved goodbye, saying that his name was Shiro, and then asked the guy to buy something from him at the next meeting. Vasu also told the guy his name, and then added that they would meet next time. The merchant finally told the guy to take care of himself. Vasu watched Shiro leave, not understanding what was wrong with him. But right now, Vasu was much more important. It was protecting Tata. After a while, he reached the mansion. He awkwardly greeted the girl. Nenya, displeased, asked the guy why he was taking so long. Then the girl said they were worried that he was sick from the poison. Vasu could only apologize for disturbing them. Then Nenya noticed that the adventurer looked pale. The guy didn't do it because he drank the swamp. The girl realized that Reagan had told the guy the gist of the matter, so she wanted to tell him everything in more detail again, which is a very important moment for them. She turned to the guy, said that Vasu had to be in great shape because they knew what could happen. The girl stopped talking when she saw the Vas lying unconscious on the floor. She ran up to the guy and then began to bring him back to consciousness, but he did not respond. Someone was approaching the protected city. At this time, on the other side of the city, a huge group of monsters appeared, making loud noises. The monster was sitting on the roof and growling. Shiro smiled, thinking that even with the 4 red spheres, none of them had turned into the desired shape he had hoped for. And then he added that, fortunately, it should have been enough to make the show interesting. Vasu was unconscious. Reagan was sitting in his office when night broke into him, saying they had a problem. Orlando then spoke about the report of one of the adventurers who had just returned. He said the goblins were heading towards the southern borders of Lunik. Reagan said goblins weren't that much of a problem, but Orlando said there were at least 1,000 goblins heading into the city. At this time, Tata was taking care of the adventurer who fainted while stroking his hair. The guy slowly began to regain consciousness. Tata called the guy and then said that he fainted on the way home. Vasu sat up and then apologized to Tata for the inconvenience because the girl had to put his head on her lap. The girl just laughed, saying that it was not a problem for her. Tatu was worried that the guy had lost consciousness. Even with his incredible strength, she assumed that the swamp had given him a good beating. Then Vasu remembered that after everything happened, he had another goddess. The guy asked the girl to tell him if Vasu was a normal person, but Tata did not understand what he was talking about. He asked the girl to look at him, to feel him, to make sure 100% because it was very serious. Tata agreed to check on him. She ran her hands through her hair, then put her hands on the guy's cheeks. The guy asked if there was anything strange with him, but Tata was silent, looking at the guy's face. She began to lean closer to his face, thinking about how cute Vasu was. Suddenly, Nenya burst into the room, saying that she had brought water. At this time, Tata quickly moved away from the vase. The girl thanked her friend for her help, who then asked if the adventurer had woken up. Nenya then said she was glad to hear that Vasu had woken up, even though she wasn't worried about him. Then I noticed the vase, even though the girl spoke like that, but her tale gave her away. Nenya put down a tray with water. She heard that Vasu got rid of the poisonous swamp, and after Tata thanked the guy for saving the entire capital. She thanked on behalf of all the residents, to which Vasu only said that it was the least he could do for them. Nenya did not understand how he could cope with that swamp, because it was hard to believe that an ordinary person could cope with something like this. She then said that she was glad that Vasu had returned as a human being. Then Tata asked what the guy was hiding from them, wondering what secret was behind his strength, but the guy only looked at the girl in confusion. Then Tata said that Vasu could not tell anything, because each person had a couple of secrets. The guy was just watching the girl, which was not sure if the guy was actually hiding something about himself or not. Then she put her hands on the guy's cheeks, saying that she understood him, that the guy was afraid to become even stronger. She smiled, saying that Vasu was a real person. Tata felt it. She believed it before, now, and always. Nenya went to the window while Tata was talking to the adventurer. It was noisy outside, so it was interesting what was going on there. Suddenly, another girl burst into the room and announced that a horde of goblins was about to attack the city. Then she also said that Greta was also going to join the guild master to fight against the goblins. Then the girls told the guy that, in the past, Mr. Greta and Reagan were the strongest adventurers, and now they were summoning all the adventurers in the capital. When Tata asked how many goblins there were, the girl replied that there were more than 1,000 of them. Then the girls looked at the silent guy, who smiled, saying that his time had come to perform with other adventurers. Tata turned to Vaz, saying that she did not ask him to save the capital. The girl approached the guy. She asked him to take care of himself. She asked him not to overdo it. Vasu smiled. He promised that he would not die, and then told Nenya to take care of Tata while he was gone. He began to move away, and then said that he would be back soon. Tata only looked anxiously after the guy, holding out her hand for him, and then told him to be careful. The adventurers gathered near the gates to the city, and shouted to the guards to raise the gates so that they would already deal with the goblins. Orlando said that there were too many goblins, and if they opened the gates, the goblins could demolish the capital completely. But the adventurers were confident that they could deal with these goblins. There were already adventurers who advanced to the goblins, and Orlando didn't know what to do. Suddenly, he heard a familiar voice. In the crowd, he saw a vase, which began to wave at him. Vasu didn't understand what was going on with the crowd and the goblins. Orlando said the goblins were outside trying to break down the gate, and the adventurer needed to stop them immediately. They wanted to deal with the monsters, but they were too outnumbered, and it didn't matter how many high-class adventurers there were, they just didn't have a chance. Vasu then asked where Reagan and Gareth were. Orlando said they were already outside, and one of the adventurers was shouting that they had to save them. There were a lot of ordinary peasants in the capital, and comparing human lives was terrible, but if he had to choose who to save, Orlando couldn't make a choice. He was thinking that if he had the power to shift the balance, then he could at least do something. Vasu then told the guy not to worry, and then told him to leave the matter to him. Vasu suggested that if he reduced the number of goblins, then the rest of the adventurers could join in. He then told Orlando to open the gate when Vasu gave him the signal. Then Vasu said he was leaving. He came out of the crowd, which thought that the guy decided to run away. After moving away to the right distance, Vasu ran away properly. And then he jumped. He flew over the walls of the city, which Orlando was very surprised at. Vasu looked down. He was surprised that there were goblins, and indeed there were quite a lot of goblins. Then the guy swung and hit the ground with it, shouting, thereby neutralizing the goblins. Vasu looked around, thinking that was enough. He shouted at Orlando to open the gate. The adventurer slowly looked out, thinking that Vasu was joking. But how surprised Orlando was when he saw the vase in a shallow crater. Vasu smiled, saying that he was leaving the rest of the goblins to other adventurers. The gates immediately opened, and the adventurers eagerly ran to fight the goblins. Orlando looked gratefully at the vase, which smiled back at him. After that, the hero said that he went to look for Reagan and the others, leaving Orlando with everything else. Orlando thanked the fleeing guy, who just waved at him. At that time, Reagan was fighting a goblin. He was thinking that there was no end to the monsters. He then asked Gareth if he was okay. But he noticed that they would not advance in such a small force unless they stopped the monsters on their way to the North Gate. But Reagan said that the Goblin King was still out there somewhere, and if they found him and killed him, then the goblins could retreat. He understood that the plan was tied to finding a needle in a haystack. Suddenly, Vasu jumped out to them, greeting the adventurers. They couldn't figure out how the guy could get to them. To this, Vasu replied that they had problems, so he came to help them. It was not clear why the goblins began to attack, but now it was not up to that, because it was impossible to predict when the monsters could gather in a huge horde. It was also clear that somewhere there was a Goblin King who controlled the remnants of the horde. Vasu was inspired to kill this Goblin King, but Reagan said that if they got rid of this king, then the remnants of the horde could start attacking the nearest villages, which they would not be able to go to. The guy was unhappy with all this. Then the guildmaster added that they wanted to settle in this place, and if everything worked out, they could get rid of all the monsters in the final battle. Vasu was about to say something when a big explosion sounded behind him. They turned in surprise towards the noise that was coming from the North Gate. A wounded adventurer came running to them, who said that a demon had appeared at the North Gate. But Vasu didn't know which demon they were talking about. Then he was briefly told that the demon was a magical being, that he had once been a man who could control an incredible amount of magical power. The demons had so much magical power that their human bodies could not withstand it, turning it into something different and stronger. In the process, they lost their minds in streams of madness, and it was an irreversible process. Then Gareth added that the muscles of the demons swelled and changed into terrible deformations, and he did not yet talk about the insides, which were practically destroyed. And Vasu could tell at a glance that they were no longer human. The guy thought about what exactly happened with the Gazuna. And then he ran to the North Gate to defeat the demon. At this time, Tata and Nenya ran out of the mansion. Tata did not understand what was happening, while her friend warned the girl not to leave the mansion. But Tata was worried that Vasu was in danger. But Nenya assured the girl that everything was fine with the boy, because he was incredibly strong. Tata stared in horror at the black figure behind Nenya, and only she wanted to say that someone was behind her. The monster hit Nenya, after which she did not even have time to react. Nenya didn't understand how she hadn't sensed his presence, and when Tata was unprotected, the demon grabbed the girl who tried to fight him off, but he only said that the girl was now his. She turned to the monster and then recognized the lord in the face of the smiling monster. Nenya asked what kind of magic this lord used. The same one only laughed, saying that Tata was now his, and the rest can only enjoy despair before the power of demons and goblins. The monsters continued to attack the gates of the capital. The guards told the citizens to go home and stay as far away from the gate as possible. The dragon family looked anxiously at the gate, worried about the vase. At this time, Vasu was already running up to the North Gate, noticing a group of goblins. And in this crowd, he saw 3 monsters that were familiar to him. He remembered the 3 adventurers, then the goblins moved on the guy. Vasu hit one of them faster. He didn't understand why these guys turned into monsters, but he understood that if they couldn't turn back, then he would do everything in his power to stop them and release them from their torments. The guy will neutralize 3 goblins with 1 blow, saying goodbye to them. The adventurers were amazed by the vase, which they knew about as dragon tamers. Vasu asked if the adventurers were okay, and then told them not to worry because reinforcements were on their way. One of the adventurers thanked the guy, noting that while someone strong was dealing with demons, they could take care of themselves. Then Vasu said he had to go back to Reagan. The adventurers were amazed that this guy had tamed a dragon and how he killed demons with his bare hands. Vasu ran back to Reagan, who didn't realize how strong the guy was to deal with the demons so quickly. But the main thing was that Vasu returned to them again, because even with reinforcements, the goblins continued to crowd them. Vasu listened to Reagan, who said that without his help, they would have lost. Vasu was glad that the guildmaster was counting on him. Vasu was thinking that he liked being needed by someone. He had already gone after Reagan but stopped abruptly, saying that he had a bad feeling. A wounded Nenya was walking towards him, who could no longer stand on her feet. The guy quickly ran up to her, asking what happened. Nenya was sorry because she couldn't protect the tattoo, and she was kidnapped by the city manager. She told the guy that the Lord had turned into a demon with wings on his back, so Nenya couldn't do anything. She was sorry. Nenya apologized to Vasu for not being able to protect the tattoo, and the guy was angry. Gareth and Reagan ran up to them, realizing that Lord had taken advantage of the moment and stolen the tattoo. Vasu then asked what the Lord could have done to the girl after he kidnapped her. Then Reagan suggested that he would force the girl to marry him, making her a doll for the rest of her life. Then he could restrict her from everyone in his mansion, could laugh at the girl until he was full. Then Gareth said that Lord had once pretended to be a guest and visited his business while the owner was away. He and Nenya tried to stop Tatu from doing something stupid. She understood that she had asked to work in that place to help pay off debts, and if she had known that she could be used by a lord, then she would have preferred to leave this world. Besides, she would have become his wife anyway if she hadn't been able to pay off the debts. But she didn't want to do that, even without experiencing true love. She cried, thinking that if she raised enough money and became a free woman, then in the future there would be someone who would sincerely love her. And then Nenya said that she would do everything in her power to protect the tattoo from the Lord, but in the end, he took the girl anyway. The only thing Nenya wanted was to make the tattoo happy, to make happy the one who smiled, no matter what. And Vasu understood what the girl was feeling right now. At this time, the adventurers could no longer hold back even with reinforcements. The number of goblins was too large to cope with them. Reagan said that Vasu had to go to Tata because the only one who could save Tatu from the clutches of the Lord was Vasu. Vasu didn't know what to do, because if he put adventurers, something could happen. He didn't know what the right choice was. He wanted to be told it. Suddenly, someone noticed that the guy was in a stupor. Vasu looked up when he saw Ragnar. Everyone looked at the dragon in surprise. He said that he was not sure what was happening, and then added that the vase should have been in another place, and therefore the guy could entrust the goblins to him. The guy smiled, and then went to save the tattoo, saying that he was counting on Ragnar. He just chuckled contentedly. The dragon asked what the enemy's strength was. Then the adventurer said that there were about 800 of them, and they also noticed the Goblin King, and these goblins definitely looked infected. Ragnar said he didn't want to waste time, so he wanted to turn the monsters into ashes all at once. Reagan then told the adventurers to move aside so as not to get in the line of fire. Then the dragon began to burn monsters with its fiery breath. The adventurers were admired by the Dragon King, and now they could defeat the monsters. Ragnar told Reagan that there were people in the city who were trembling with fear because of this incident, both his daughter Lula and Mael. The guildmaster heard the dragon's words and told the adventurer that they had to win this war. At this time, the Lord brought the tattoo to his mansion. He threw the girl on the bed, saying that the girl was destined to become his. But Tata said she would never become his. The Lord had already tried to keep the girl in his mansion, and she did not understand what else he wanted from her. Then the Lord replied that he wanted Tata to become his wife. The girl was horrified by his words, so she said that she would never become her because her heart was still pure, unlike her body. The man hit the girl, unable to stand her audacity, and then said that there was no one in the world but him who could humiliate himself to want such a dirty girl like Tata. The girl, holding her burning cheek, said that she did it of her own free will. Then she decided that she would be for someone who would love her with all her heart. Tata said that the Lord was not that person, because she already had someone she loved. She remembered the vase, and then shouted to the Lord that she would never become his. Then the Lord stretched out his terrible hand, saying that he should conceive a child with Tata. He tore her clothes, and then added that he would do it over and over again so that she could no longer refuse him. Tata screamed, and at that moment Vasu came, who pushed the demon away from the girl with all his might. He looked at the girl, who looked hopefully at the adventurer, and then hugged him tightly. Vasu apologized to the girl for being late. Tata looked at the guy and asked why he was here and what was going on outside. The guy calmed the girl down, saying that the goblins were almost dealt with. Vasu added, looking at the girl, that he had come here because Nenya had told him everything. Tata wanted to say again that she was only giving the guy trouble, but the adventurer reminded her that he was her bodyguard. Then he took off his shirt, which would not be very good if the tattoo was seen in this form. After that, he put this shirt on the girl. The girl blushed and, almost crying, asked him why he was kind to someone like her. The guy just smiled, asking not to talk like that. But the guy did not have time to finish, as an angry lord returned to them who did not understand how the vase got into the mansion. Then the guy just replied that he jumped into the wall, as he usually did, but the demon said not to talk such nonsense. After all, there were at least 30 B-ranked guards in the building, and they couldn't just let someone through. Then Vasu opened the doors, pointing at these very guards who were lying unconscious. The guy was not happy that these guys were hiding in the Lord's house when the goblins attacked the city, so he taught the guards a lesson. Lord angrily exhaled, saying that it didn't matter because they were just people. The demon didn't care how strong he was, thinking that Vasu was helpless in front of his power. Magic began to gather around the Lord when he said that his water could pierce anything and fire could incinerate any creature without exception. He shouted that Vasu and Tata would rot in hell when he released his magic on them and hid the vase behind a frightened girl. Shiro watched what was happening, thinking that he could not have imagined that a boring guy would turn out to be like this. The merchant noticed that Vasu was insanely strong, not to mention that he was able to make friends with the Dragon King. He laughed at this crazy turn of events, and then I noticed that the Lord's strength was slightly different from the others. Shiro wondered if Vasu could handle him. At that moment, the Lord was telling Vaz and Tata to see his amazing abilities after receiving magical power, and the demon's magic began to descend on them. Tata grabbed the guy by the shoulder and then shouted for the guy to run away. Then he heard two voices that were surprised by the use of water and fire magic at the same time. The guy realized that it was the goddesses who were talking. Then they warned the guy that the demon would not be able to hurt the vase, because they would protect him, so they asked the demon to show his strongest blow. Vasu covered his face with his hands as the flames were directed at him. The tattoo that was hiding behind his back looked at the guy in surprise and then told him to stop. She shouted at him to leave the girl there and run away, because if he stayed, he could get hurt. The guy just asked the girl not to worry. Then he turned his head to her and winked, saying that he was fine. Tata tearfully asked why he went so far to help someone like her. The guy, looking at the girl, stopped the magic of the demon, who did not understand why the vase was still unharmed. And then Vasu said that he liked Tata. Blushing, she looked at the guy who had just realized what he had said. He held his head, thinking about what he had just done, because he had not planned to confess to a girl in such a situation. Then he looked at the confused girl, waving his arms, and added that he had said it without thinking. The girl sadly replied that the guy should not have fallen in love with a girl like Tata, because she was not worthy of his love. The guy froze, listening to the girl talking about how her body was stained. Vasu wanted to say that she was a nice girl, but the girl interrupted him, reminding him that she had been with so many men, and even with the count. Then Vasu said he didn't care. After all, Tata was standing in front of him now, and the guy was saying that he liked her. The girl froze, looking at the guy with her big eyes, and then squeezed her eyes shut so as not to cry. Upon hearing this, the Lord was furious that Vasu was constantly spending time with his woman. Because of these words, the guy looked angrily at the demon who wanted to attack him. The guy angrily asked who the demon called his woman, and then with all his strength gave the Lord in the chest. A sphere fell out of the Lord's mouth from the blow, after which the man fell to the floor unconscious. The guy picked up the ball, carefully examining it, realizing that he had seen the same one at Gazuna. After a while, the vase was carried by a girl who asked the guy to let her go because she thought she was heavy. But the guy just smiled, noticing that the Tata was very easy for him. He continued to carry the girl, saying that after he dropped her off near her place of work, he had to check what was out of town. Tata agreed with the guy, hoping that everything was fine. Joyful adventurers came towards them, who told the guy not to worry, because they all dealt with the goblins together. Ninya ran out from behind the men, who immediately ran to her at the sight of Tata. Tata came down with a vase, asking her friend if she was okay. Gareth thanked the vase for saving the tattoo. At the same time, Ninya apologized for not being able to protect the tattoo. Then Vasu again told her not to blame herself, because the Lord was still not a human being. Then Reagan noticed that Ninya had been of great help to them in the battle against the goblins. Then Ninya smiled at the guy and thanked him. He smiled, saying that it meant a lot to him, considering that at first Ninya did not believe him at all. to which Ninya said that she had already apologized for it. And so the heroes returned to their families, who joyfully welcomed the adventurers who defeated more goblins. Thanks to the heroic efforts of Vasu and the others, the chaos that threatened that day was suppressed, and peace returned to Lunik. The next day, Vasu enjoyed a fresh morning and thought that everything was fine again. Even if the weather was just terrible outside, the guy thought it didn't matter, because on this day he wanted to invite a tattoo to the vase. He looked at the ring, realizing that Mael might be upset about this, but Vasu wanted to invite Tate to become his friend. He wondered if Tata would agree to travel with him. Then I remembered that I wanted to know something before that. He came to Reagan to ask about the Lord's condition, to which the man said that they couldn't even tell if the Lord was alive or not. Reagan assumed that, in any case, it didn't look like Lord was going to wake up anytime soon. He tried to ask the magic experts, but they were still no closer to an answer. They only talked about the Count's imminent death, and it was the same with those three from the Black Flame. Then Vasu shared with the man that when he defeated the Count, the red sphere came out of his mouth. And the same thing happened to an elf who turned into a monster in an elven village. Reagan frowned, realizing that they might be connected in some way, like those three from the Black Flame. He had heard that spitting out a red sphere after their opponent's victory, then it immediately broke. Orlando then added that there were reports from citizens who saw those two guys buying such red balloons from a suspicious guy in a hood. Reagan thought that they probably got their powers from an external source rather than becoming strong on their own. This meant that someone was walking around and handing out these balls to turn people into monsters. Then Vasu said that he had met this hooded man only once. His face was covered by a hood, so Vasu couldn't see him. Reagan volunteered to investigate, although during this time, the traitor could have already escaped from Lunik. And then he told Orlando that he would leave the matter to him. The man then asked if Vasu was going to catch up with Tatu, but he did not understand Reagan. The guildmaster then asked if the guy knew where they could go. They didn't know that those who were still loyal to the Count could do something to the tattoo out of resentment, so she left Lunik with her family. Reagan also heard that Gareth and his subordinates accompanied them, so Reagan thought that since the guy was so close to Tata, he would like to chase her. The guy didn't believe in the man's words. He remembered the girl and then ran out of the office. Vasu had not heard anything about the girl's move. He quickly and non-stop ran towards the mansion where Tata worked. At the entrance, the guy saw Nenya, who was a little surprised by the arrival of the guy. Vasu grabbed the girl by the shoulders, asking where Tata was going. But Nenya looked away, apologizing for not knowing her direction. The girl also said that Tata asked to track her by scent and follow her later, and Tata also asked not to take anyone with her. The guy was surprised that Tata didn't say anything about him, but Nenya only said that it was for the safety of Tata and her family. The girl said she trusted the guy, but it wasn't for her to decide who to take and who not. Then she apologized. The guy smiled bitterly, saying that he understood the girl. He understood that for Tata, a peaceful life somewhere far away would be the best solution for her. Then Vasu thought, before the rain intensified, to ask Nenya to take care of herself, and then asked her to convey his best wishes to Tata. The cat girl thanked him, then began to move away from him towards the gate out of the city, leaving the guy alone. The guy looked up at the rainy sky, thinking that he had been abandoned again. At this time, Serona sighed bitterly. She was sitting on a rock, worrying for several days and thinking that she could just go back to the village. The girl came there because she wanted to join the Vaz Harem, but when she got the chance, she failed. She was thinking that the guy had most likely made good friends, and it depressed her a little. Normally, Serona would never worry about this, but when it came to the vase, it was the other way around. And so she couldn't stop sighing. Suddenly, a cart stopped near Serona, from which a girl began to get out and shout that she was returning to the city. Her parents tried to reason with the girl, saying that it was dangerous for them to stay in Lunica. Tata was angry that they hadn't said anything to Vaz. Serona heard a familiar name. At the same time, Tata continued to say that she understood that they could meet again, but now he was leaving the city for 6 months. The girl thought sadly that it all looked like she had cut him out of her life. The girl's father said they didn't have time to look for that guy. Tata then asked Gareth to bring her back to the city. But the parents didn't understand why their daughter would go so far to see that guy again. And then Tata told them that she was in love with him. The parents and Serona were surprised by the girl's statement. The parents were happy for their daughter, who was in love, and on this occasion they decided to return back to the city. Serona then approached them and apologized for disturbing them. She just wanted to ask. Serona looked at the tattoo, which decided to listen to the girl, being surprised by her beautiful appearance. The elf hesitated a little and then asked about the vase that Tata was talking about now. Then Serona described the appearance of a guy who was insanely strong, with black hair and a normal appearance, which made him cute. Tata was surprised that Serona knew the guy, and after she realized that she also wanted to join the vase, Serona understood the same thing. After all, they both wanted to join his harem. Serona and Tata were sitting opposite each other, silently looking at each other. Garrett and Tata's parents were sitting at nearby tables, looking at the girls a little excitedly. Then the girls simultaneously asked each other what kind of relationship they had with Vasu. The girls blushed uncomfortably again. Then Serona suggested that since they were talking about Vasu, then most likely he helped someone somewhere, and then that someone would fall in love with the guy. Tata smiled, realizing that Serona's heart had also stolen the vase, which made the elf shudder. The girls silently looked at each other, because they both knew this feeling. Then Serona said with displeasure that Vasu was a cunning man who described himself as an ordinary guy, although he was so strong that he could beat any monster with one blow, and what woman could not fall in love with a guy after that? Tata agreed with Serona's words, adding that Vasu was defenseless and kind. She said he had a pure heart, and the words that were not easy for the gentleman to pronounce, Vasu spoke looking straight into the eyes. The girls fell silent again, looking at each other, and then realized that they had already been to the Vazu harem. Tata then smiled, asked the elf to tell what happened between her and Vasu, promising that she would not be jealous. Giggling, Serona smiled sweetly, suggesting that Tata do the same because she also wanted to hear about what happened between them. Then she suggested if the guy did something for Tata but didn't do it for Serona, then they could persuade the guy to do it. Tata suggested the same thing, and then both girls said that they were joking, laughing with their jokes. At this time, in the moonlight, Male flew up to Vasu's bed, then landed on his bed, calling him. Suddenly, Vasu's hand appeared from under the blanket, dragging the dragon inside and tightly squeezing her in his arms. Male turned to face the guy who was crying bitterly, closing his eyes. Seeing him like this, Male also began to cry. Lula listened to her mother, who noticed that Vasu had been lying in bed for the 5th day, adding that he had not eaten anything. Then Lula asked the Dragon King if he could cheer up the vase to cheer him up. Then Ragnar asked if Lula knew the purpose of Vasu's journey. Then the man said that the guy wanted to find friends with whom he could return to his hometown. Then he added that the vase was badly injured, and then he left his hometown. And he needed friends to heal his wounds, and then Vasu was ready to go back. Mel added, saying they weren't the friends Vasu was looking for. Majil agreed with her daughter, noting that they were just watching the future of Mile and Vasu, and at that moment it was not the time to give the guy a helping hand. After all, it was important now that Vasu understood what it meant to make friends. Lula was thinking about the dragon's words when Orlando suddenly burst in, asking if Vasu was at the hotel. The girl wanted to warn the guy that Vasu was in his room and lying in bed, but Orlando only apologized, saying that he needed to talk to the adventurer urgently. He burst into the guy's room, saying that he had heard everything from Reagan. He approached the vase and then tried to put him down, displeased, asking how long he was going to sleep, adding that they had to go. Vasu did not understand what important business Orlando had and what he needed from him. Orlando took a stand, saying that he wanted to fight the vase. The guardian was determined to fight, when Vasu skeptically said that he would not defeat him. But Orlando asked the guy not to be so confident and then began to attack him. Vasu lazily dodged Orlando's attacks, sighing in boredom, then tripped up the attacker, saying that all this annoyed him. Then he looked at Orlando, saying that he wanted to go to bed. But the guard noticed that he fought with Vasu with all his might, but could not even injure the adventurer. Realizing that Orlando was enjoying this battle, Vasu was a little furious. Then he said that he had come all this way to lose later. He didn't understand what Orlando was up to. Then the guardian said that he wanted to make the vase finally move his body, to which the adventurer said that he did not move much. Orlando explained to the guy because when he was sad, the best thing to do was to go get some air and move around to make it easier. Vasu pointed out that it would have worked if the opponent had been stronger than Orlando. Then Vasu said that he could soon hate Reagan because he told him to do it. Then Orlando realized what he was talking about, remembering the tattoo. The adventurer was angry, and then he hit Orlando, telling him not to say her name anymore, for which Orlando quickly apologized. Vasu asked why Orlando had come to him, to which he said that he could not just stand by and watch as Vasu lay in bed and suffered. Then Orlando remembered that he had something else to say to the brunette. He was a little surprised, and then Orlando pointed at the vase, saying that the adventurer was not cool at all. Vasu was startled by these words. He asked Orlando to shut up, because he knew he wasn't that attractive, but Orlando had something else in mind. He asked Vasu to listen to him, because he was not cool only in the current situation. Orlando said he felt for him like a man, but the guy didn't understand what was wrong with the Vas. After all, when he saw his battle with the goblins, he was shocked and impressed. Vasu listened to the guy, that Orlando knew perfectly well that there was such a force in the world. He respected the guy with all his soul. And then he confessed that he would like to be like a vase. He wanted to be not just a guardian, but a man who could protect others. Orlando stood in front of the lying guy, adding that this was how he wanted to be. He sat down in front of Vasu again, saying that he could not remain silent after hearing that the one he admired locked himself in his room because of a woman, to which Vasu only said that it was none of his business. Vasu sat down and then asked why he had to listen to these words from Orlando. The guardian did not know why Vasu asked this, but replied that he thought Vasu was his friend. The brunette looked skeptically at the happy guy, saying that they had suddenly become closer. That's when Orlando said that's why he wanted Vasu to get back on his feet. Vasu thought about Orlando's words, and then asked if the guy could listen to him. Then Vasu began to talk about how the villagers considered him strong, but the strength of his heart did not match the physical strength. Orlando listened that Vasu was unsure of himself, so he looked for friends to fill the void, but no one was near Vasu. The guy remembered the girls, thinking that they looked like they fell in love with him, but in the end, they left him anyway, and every time this happened, Vasu ran away to hide in his room. This world was full of people who had friends traveling with them, and Vasu was very jealous of them. He looked at his hand, thinking that even with such strength, no one would follow him, and over time, it made him even sadder. After listening to the vase, Orlando punched the guy in the face. The brunette did not understand what he was doing, to which Orlando said that he was unhappy with this way of thinking when Vasu said that his power was useless. The guard took the vase by the breasts, thinking that even if the vase had no friends after all, who cared that no one was following the guy? The guy saved Lunik, everyone praised Ragnar, but the real hero was Vasu, and Orlando knew it. Orlando then recalled that Vasu had saved his beloved girlfriend, which was a reason for pride. Of course, Tata was gone, but it was Vasu who made the girl smile. Wasn't that enough for pride? Orlando didn't understand if Vasu was one of those men who didn't care about a girl's happiness, if Vasu wanted to force a girl to become his friend. He asked Vasu again what such power was needed for, in order to help people, solve problems, and make people happy again. And wasn't it amazing when a traveler who was a hero is known all over the world? Someone who was very cool. Orlando asked Vasa to become just such a person. Vasu froze, listening to the guard's words, and then remembered the girl. He closed his eyes and then smiled confidently. He stood in the grass and then said it didn't sound bad. Orlando just smiled contentedly, after which he said that it had already been decided. The family of dragons that had been sitting in the bushes all this time were glad that Vasu had finally realized everything. Then Vasu and Orlando returned to the city and went to the guildmaster, who was too surprised that the two wanted to leave the guild. The guys confirmed their words, and then Orlando said that he wanted to become a knight. Vasu added that he trained the guy a little, and he managed to learn something. Reagan thought about it, thinking that if Vasu was talking about the guy like that, then he was ready. Then the man said, in order to become a knight, Orlando would have to go to the capital of the kingdom of Manbond, to which the guy said that they had planned to do so. Reagan then said it was sudden, especially for Vasu, who had been hiding in his room before, but was now so energetic. The man thought it was the best time to start traveling. Lula cried a lot when Vasu and Orlando were about to leave. Vasu asked the girl to accompany him with a smile, to which the girl said that a regular customer was leaving. The guy just thought about what to expect from the owner of the hotel. Then Kayla came up to him, asking the vase to look into their Lunik. The guy thanked the woman. Then another girl came up to him, hugging him tightly and crying that their valuable asset was leaving, and then added that they were waiting for the guy back to the guild. After that, Reagan approached the guy, giving the guy the reward for that mission with the poisonous swamp. The guy was surprised by such a large amount of money. Then the man handed the guy a badge as well. They said that the whole group had such badges when Reagan was an adventurer, and if the guy shows it to the guildmaster in the east of the royal capital, he can get some benefits. The man said that guildmaster was his older sister, who had a terrible temper. Vasu began to imagine Reagan's older sister with horror. After a long goodbye, the guys in mail thanked everyone and said goodbye once again. Along the way, Vasu said goodbye to many more people, and then they left Lunik. Ragnar and his family went back to their castle. Heading to the capital of the kingdom, together with Mael and Orlando, they began their long and once again long journey. But Vasu didn't know that the two girls were chasing him. Tata and Serona asked Gareth to hurry up because Vasu could have already left Lunik. The man only smiled, thinking that he knew that the guy had a bright future. But he could never have imagined that the vase would be chased by two beauties. Nenya, who was sitting at a distance from the girls, thought that if she had known that such a thing could happen, she would have taken the guy with her, because it was difficult for her to look at Tata's bitter face. The girls leaned towards Nenya, thinking that she was also a candidate for the guy's harem. To this assumption, Nenya said that he was just a bodyguard. Serona and Tata only thoughtfully said that maybe in the future Nenya would realize the charm of the Vas, noticing that they had another competitor in love. The carriage continued to drive at high speed, while Gareth thought that he was a sinful man. Vasu and Orlando went on a new journey. They walked through forests and fields, moving further and further away. And when they were in the forest, they were attacked again by a monster, which Orlando quickly defeated. He was trying to get his breathing in order. Orlando asked Vasu if they could rest for a while. Vasu was surprised that Orlando had only killed 30 monsters, but he was already tired. Then the guard asked not to compare his endurance with that of an ordinary soldier. Then Vasu smiled, putting his hand on the tired guy's shoulder, saying that he was just joking, but he was sure that Orlando had become stronger. The soldier was not sure about this, because he could not feel it by comparing it with a vase. Orlando then added that in any case, he envied Vaz, who was surprised by these words. Then Orlando said that even if Vasu was on the verge of death, he would be able to learn excellent protection from the goddess, and then the guy would become stronger again. Vasu knew that he was becoming stronger because of the goddess, but he believed that the one who helped him when he was on the verge of death was not the goddess, but Mael. After all, she was the one who fed the guy everything, and so he could eat anything now. Then the guy picked a mushroom. He told Orlando that every time he ate stuff, he got stronger. Then Vasu suggested that it was thanks to Mael that he was able to become stronger, and then he ate a poisonous mushroom, which greatly frightened Orlando. The soldier thought that even though he had killed 30 monsters, he had not become much stronger. He didn't know why, but when he heard that Vasu had become stronger, Orlando became very jealous. He envied him so much that he probably couldn't even imagine a vase. But after he spent a few days with Vasu, he realized that the guy wasn't bragging or abusing force. And such an attitude does not come easily, which is why people relied on the vase. After listening to a friend, Vasu sadly said that he didn't have any friends anyway. Orlando said that pessimism made the vase more human. The soldier noticed that when someone was in trouble, people thought about calling the vase, and Orlando thought it was amazing, and he wanted to be that person. Vasu asked Orlando again if his goal was to become a knight in Manbanda, then get promoted and command the soldiers, but Orlando thought he couldn't do it. Then Vasu said that the guy would be able to because all 50 days until they get to the capital, he would personally teach him, and Orlando would definitely become stronger. Orlando said that the guy only told him to kill monsters and did not give him any lessons because he was bad at learning, to which Vasu only said that he was strict in learning. After a while, night came, and then Vasu suggested that everyone go to bed because it was important for them to rest a lot. Then the guy asked Mael to prepare a bed for them. The dragon began to use magic, getting everything the guy asked for. Mael thanked the vase, and Orlando said that no matter how much he saw it, it was amazing for him. The soldier assumed that Mael had used spatial magic, and Vasu agreed, noting that it was convenient when Mael could carry things. As Orlando spread his beds around the campfire, he wondered, since the Dragon King and his family were able to transform into humans, if Mael could also transform into a human. Vasu replied that Ragnar had said that Mael did not have enough strength for this, but that did not mean that she would remain a dragon forever. Orlando smiled, even though Vasu said that he was constantly abandoned by women, but the little dragon who saved his life and stayed next to Vasu every day definitely liked the adventurer. The soldier assumed, looking at the sleeping male, that the one who could become Vasu's wife was very close. To these words of a friend, Vasu said that he would like his wife to be human, after which Orlando laughed. Vasu then told Orlando to kill 100 monsters the next day. Then the soldier thought that he would be squeezed out faster than he would reach Manbond. Morning came. The sun's rays were shining directly at the guys, but Vasu woke up from some noise. He sat up, not understanding what kind of sound he had heard. Then I heard someone asking what they were trying to do. The voice said that if there was no benefit, then they definitely would not have had anything to do with them. Then another voice shouted that they were just being used, but they didn't understand it. Orlando woke up the vase, saying that he heard someone quarreling, but Orlando did not hear anything. Then Vasu heard someone laugh, saying that the knights living peacefully probably didn't know, but people were constantly using each other for their own benefit. Vasu quickly ran in the right direction, telling his friend to follow him. At this time, the men were standing around someone, thinking that it was rare to meet cuties, and it would be such a loss for them if they just killed them. The men grabbed the girls, who were trying to get out of their hands, thinking that they could have fun with them. Suddenly, their captain screamed at them to stop, take their hands off her subordinates. The woman thought that if they wanted to laugh at the girls, then let them do it with her. The men looked at her plump body, saying that no one even wanted to touch her, so she had to sit and keep quiet. At this time, Vasu and Orlando were already running to rescue the girls. The soldier was surprised that Vasu could hear them at such a distance. They looked at the crowd, realizing that several women were in trouble. Vasu asked if Orlando had a gun, and then they jumped from a low cliff right to them to help and save the girls from trouble. The robbers looked at the landed guys, not understanding where they came from and who they were. The captain looked at the guys hopefully. Vasu told Orlando to take on 3 men with red armor. Orlando was already a little confused, but Vasu encouraged the guy, saying that he could handle them. Vasu himself took on the rest of the robbers. Suddenly, large shadows appeared over the vase. 2 big and muscular men were looking at him, who were unhappy that the guy ignored them. The guy didn't realize that there were 2 of them. Then they told the guy not to pretend, because they were the gang that occupied that territory. They proudly said they were the Dingo Brothers, but the guy shouted back that he didn't know them. Then he hit the brothers with all his might, while Orlando fought with 3 robbers in armor. Orlando ran at them, and then, swinging his sword, told them to let the women go. Vasu dealt with other robbers, neutralizing everyone who began to attack him. The robbers asked for help, not understanding who these 2 were, and then screamed in pain. When everyone was defeated, Vasu clapped his hands, saying that was it. Vasu asked Mael for water, after which she immediately conjured it. He then gave a flask of water to the girls, asking if they were okay. They thanked the guy. After that, Vasu approached the captain, wondering if she was injured, but she replied that she was fine. She thanked the guy for saving her when the guy wanted to untie her. He tried to grab the rope, but because of the fatness of the woman, he could not do it. The guy got nervous, thinking that the woman was overweight. Then the guy broke the rope, and then the woman was able to take a deep breath. After that, the woman said that she was an intimate servant of the 2nd princess of Manbonda, and she was also the captain of the Katie squad, and those girls were her wards. The woman was saddened that such a misfortune had happened to them when she was around. Then she asked for forgiveness for her unsightly appearance. Vasu replied that they shouldn't have worried, saying that they were just going to Manbond, and that's why everything turned out so well. She thanked them again for saving her, and then asked who they were. Suddenly, a bright flash appeared from her ring. The guys were a little surprised by this. The captain looked at the ring from which the voice came. The voice asked Katie if they were safe, to which the woman replied that they were already fine. Vasu asked what it was, to which Orlando replied that it was a ring that could be used to communicate from a distance. The voice from the ring exhaled in relief, and then said that Floyd had told them that the girls had been attacked, so right now they had already reached the village of Mima. Then Vasu quietly said that the captain's name was the same as the name of the squad. Orlando noticed that the name was cute. The voice said that they would gather in that village, but suddenly the voice asked someone who had come to him. The captain anxiously called Mrs. Naminasa, to which the guys froze, listening to the woman. At this time in the village of Mima, Mrs. Namanisu breathed a sigh of relief when she found out that Katie was fine. Then she said that they had stopped in this village and could explore it. Suddenly, a noise was heard. The girl turned her head towards the exit, asking who were those who came to her. There was a group of people in armor standing in the aisle, who then said that they had finally found Mrs. Namanissa. The butler threw something into the crowd. The butler used a smoke screen and then quickly led the girls out of the place until they could not pass. Against so many enemies, they didn't stand a chance. They were only able to escape to a house on the outskirts and put up a barrier. They prayed that Katie would be able to bring reinforcements and come to the rescue, and now they could wait for the magic power to run out. Namanissa was thinking that their investigation had reached such heights, and they could get a little more proof. Then she heard a noise outside the window, not understanding what was happening. She looked out of the window, seeing Vasu, who began to deal with the enemies. The girl was looking at the guy. She understood this sudden meeting, and this feeling was undoubtedly love at first sight. She didn't know his name, but just seeing his back made her fall in love with him. The girl was standing in front of the vase. The guy was in the village of Oishi a few days ago. Vasu smoothed the ground with his hands and then smiled, saying that now everyone was gathered. The captain and Orlando looked at the work done by the vase, asking if they were alive. Vasu then explained that there was no abandoned house or cage in the village, and so that these bandits would not escape, the guy decided to bury them. The captain noticed that these robbers looked pitiful, and Orlando said it was a terrible flower garden. Then a girl rode up to them who said that she had talked with the head of the village, and then added that she would go to Lunik to make sure that these robbers would receive punishment as soon as possible. The captain said that all this would solve a lot of problems, so she left everything to her. Suddenly, the girl met Vasu's gaze. She said she would definitely come back to him. Vasu blushed with embarrassment, and then the girl asked Orlando to tell her more about the trip when the time came. The soldier blushed embarrassedly and unexpectedly. The girl's words shocked the vase. Orlando stuttered, agreed with the girl, and then asked her to be careful. The girl smiled happily when she heard his words. Then she rode off on a horse, leaving the boys behind. Vasu glanced sideways at Orlando, who noticed his friend's gaze and blushed. After that, 2 more girls came up to Orlando and said that on Katie's orders they would stay in this village to continue monitoring the bandits. It annoyed them a little because they couldn't accompany the guy. Then the girl suggested that the confused guy meet again together. Vasu just watched it with displeasure. Then he sighed, thinking that Orlando had got all the girls, even though Vasu had helped save them too. As he thought, his face was a problem. Then he suggested changing his hairstyle or appearance, for which he received a blow from Mail. The guy realized that the dragon did not like it, because his mop of hair was a comfortable bed for Mail. After that, Vasu met Katie's gaze. Her eyes sparkled, but the guy didn't care. Then the girl winked at him, but Vasu only smiled. He thought if he was asked if a girl was his type, he wouldn't be able to answer that question, even though she looked cute. For his strong arms, she was not such a serious task to carry, and the size of the body was also not a problem. And while the guy was thinking about it, Mael hit him again with displeasure. Then he asked Katie if it was a good thing she didn't go to her mistress, because it sounded like she was in danger. Then the woman said that it was only a day from this village, riding a horse at full speed to the village of Mima. And the lady had a barrier, and the butler was also with them, so the captain was not worried. But after a little thought, she said that they should have hurried anyway. Then the man from the village said that they had prepared the horses. The captain thanked him, and Vasu refused the horse, saying that he would run on his own 2 feet. Katie was surprised by the guy's words, and then, when they hit the road, Vasu ran ahead of the horses, which surprised the captain. The guy kept running, not knowing what fatigue was. Katie was amazed by his strength and endurance. She wanted to know what the guy's body was made of. Orlando just smiled, saying that he was jealous. When night fell, they set up a small camp and built a fire. Sitting by this campfire, Katie assumed that they should have reached Mima by tomorrow evening. Katie thanked the guys again for their help, to which Vasu replied that they were just on their way, because they were also heading to Manbond. The guy thought about it, since the person the captain served was an important person for the country. Then he wanted to ask something. Then the guy said that, as a reward, Katie could help them with something. Orlando said not to get impudent with the vase. Then Katie asked what she could help with. Vasu hugged his friend's shoulders, and then told Katie that Orlando wanted to be a knight, so the guy wanted to leave the guy for the captain. The girl smiled, promising that in that case she should have talked about it with Mrs. Namanissa, but it took some time to solve this difficulty. Vasu asked if Katie could tell him more about it, but the girl said she couldn't. and the guy will find out about it from Namanisa when he meets her and earns her trust. Then, she would probably have told herself about the incident that took place in the country of Manbond. The next day, Vasu and the others reached the village of Mima. There was not a single person on the streets. Orlando noticed this too, even though the sun had already set and no one was in sight. Then they came to one of the houses. Katie apologized for bothering her, asking if anyone was in the house. A frightened young woman came out of the house. She said that a couple of days ago, people in red armor came to their village and surrounded the house on the outskirts with a large number, and the residents were scared by this. Orlando and Vasu exchanged glances. Then Orlando remembered that of those robbers, there were several people in such armor, and Vasu asked Katie if she knew them. Katie frowned, telling the guys that they had secretly left the country in pursuit of a certain person, and they were now in the process of investigating. And those people wanted to stop that investigation no matter what. Vasu thought about it and said that they had to hurry up and go to the house on the outskirts. At this time, people in red armor were standing near the house, and in their hands were torches. One of them told Namanisa to end it all and just stop walking out. He said it was all in vain, because no one could come to their aid, and it was only a matter of time before the magic power ran out. Vasu and the others were watching these people in red armor, sitting in the bushes the whole time. Orlando noticed that the armored men had an advantage in numbers. Then Katie offered to be her bait. Then Vasu assumed that the translucent dome surrounding the house was a barrier, and it looked as if this barrier was weakening. The guy began to get out of the bushes, saying that they had no more time left, so he had to go ahead, leaving his confused friends behind. Katie shouted after the guy that these people were different from those bandits, because they were knights who were well trained. But Vasu only smiled at the girl, showing her to be quiet. Katie didn't understand the vase. The guy quietly approached one knight behind his back, and then swung, hitting him in the back, from which the knight flew into his teammates. Several knights flew off to the sides, while others did not understand what was happening. Vasu scratched his head, thinking that he wasn't that good at stealth. The knights pointed their swords at the adventurer, telling him to prepare for death. One of the knights ran at the guy and then hit him with a sword, but the vase was stopped by the blade with his hand, which caused the metal to crack. The knight did not understand what was happening. Then the blade of the sword shattered into fragments, exposing the attacking knight to a greater shock. Then the rest of the knights began to attack the guy all at once. Vasu only raised his hands in a bored manner at the damage to his face, and when the swords touched him, they split into fragments again. Then Vasu seriously said that if the guys wanted to defeat him, they had to find good swords first. Namanisa looked out of the window where the knights were shouting. She was shocked by what she saw in front of her. They only knew that this guy was the savior that Katie had brought, but this guy looked like an ordinary person who had an incredible rage, and so the vase with a straight face sent the last enemy flying. Then the knight fell to the ground, and the guy just looked at his work with satisfaction. The guy noticed Mael, who had been with him all this time, and then asked if she was hurt. Katie and Orlando approached him, and then the captain said that she did not expect the guy to be so strong. Orlando was a little offended that his friend did not leave anyone on him, for which Vasu apologized to him. At this time, the barrier around the house began to fall down. Katie got down on one knee and then said that she had come to save her mistress while the guys were silently looking at her. The captain gave her name, and then the door of the cabin opened. Vasu froze in surprise when a beautiful girl came out of her hiding place. There was silence. Namanisa began to walk forward, bypassing the surprised Katie and heading straight for the vase. The girl began to carefully examine the guy in front of her, coming closer and closer to him until she found herself in close proximity to him, which made the guy smile awkwardly, blushing like the girl herself. Then Namanisa stood up on her toes and asked the name of the guy, who was a little surprised. At this time, the maid and the butler watched as the guy tried to tell the girl that she was standing too close to him, but Namanisa was only interested in his name. And then Vasu stammered out his name. After that, the girl smiled happily, repeating the guy's name. Then the girl introduced herself, saying that her name was Namanisa Manbond. The guy realized that it was the same Namanisa who was Mistress Katie. But after that, the guy froze, realizing that the girl's last name coincided with the name of the country. The girl said that it was absolutely true, because she was the second princess of Manbanda. The man was sitting on the throne, looking exactly at the girl who was holding a sword in her hands. And they both had similar jewelry. At this time, night had already fallen in the village of Mima. So the heroes went to the hotel of this village. Namanisa was smiling sweetly, while Vaz was not comfortable because the girl was sitting too close to him. He understood that the room wasn't that small, so he didn't understand why she was sitting so close to him. At this time, the girl told everyone that this meeting was informal, so they shouldn't have behaved formally. Orlando said that they had already been warned by Katie that her mistress was there, but they did not expect to meet the girl under such circumstances. The guy turned to the princess again too formally, to which Namanissa smiled amiably, asking not to speak in such a formal tone. She asked the guy to relax, and he nodded at Her Majesty's words. The princess suggested that we continue to talk in this manner. Then Vasu awkwardly pointed to the next seat, saying that he wanted to move there, but the girl put her hand on the guy's leg, saying that then she would sit next to him. Namanissa remembered that she had not yet had time to introduce her two companions. Then the man invited the first to introduce himself. He smiled, saying that his name was Floyd, and he was also Mrs. Namanissa's personal butler. Then he said that he saw Vasu bury those knights in red up to their heads. He said he was amazed at the good taste of the guy, who was surprised by such praise. The butler smiled, adding that he was very interested in the guy's exceptional taste and strength. The princess was a little unhappy with her butler, and then asked the girl to introduce herself. She blushed, and then, stammering, introduced herself, saying that her name was Kumiya, and she was the princess's personal maid, after adding that everyone could just call her Kumiya. She blushed awkwardly, and then, confused in words, said that it was nice to meet her. The guy understood that the girl's tongue was slurred, and therefore she misspoke. Vasu looked at the girl, who bowed slightly, thinking that even for her it was too much to have such large shape. Namanissa looked at the guy with displeasure, who closed his eyes, thinking that Captain Katie, like Namanissa, had large shape, but when he looked with a small body, he thought that the large shape looked so unbalanced. Then Namanissa coughed jealously, putting her hand so that her large shape seemed even bigger, and then she smiled contentedly, but the guy just looked at her uncomprehendingly. Katie then nudged Orlando to introduce himself. The guy gave his name and then said that he and Vasu had left Lunik for a trip to Manbond. Namanissa asked if these two were adventurers. Namanissa asked if they had helped defeat the men in red armor. Then Katie wanted to clarify something. The captain said that all the knights in red armor who surrounded the house where Namanissa was hiding were defeated by Vasu single-handedly. Then she said that Vasu was a reliable man. Katie winked at the guy, who was confused, not understanding what she was doing. The princess wanted to know more about it. At this time, Vasu was trying to get a map, realizing that it was a goddess. Namanissa asked the guy that something was wrong, to which the guy awkwardly apologized and then left the room, saying that he had to leave for a while, leaving a confused princess behind him. Vasu took out a map, asking the goddesses what happened. They said they were discussing something important. Then the light came out of the card. The guy opened one eye, peering at the card, noticing that nothing had changed in the status, and then asked what danger detection level 1 meant. He was glad that his humanity level hadn't dropped again. Then the goddess got angry at the guy, calling him names, and the goddess of Mother Earth just laughed triumphantly. Then the goddess began to speak angrily about Katie and Namanissa, who had large shape, and then about the maid, an appearance that can make you want to protect her just at a glance. The goddess did not understand why Kumiya had such large shape, noting that all women with large shape were enemies, and then added that the goddess of Mother Earth was also one of them. The second goddess laughed, saying that it was unrelated, because it was enough that she loved the vase with all her heart. The guy discontentedly continued to listen to the quarrel of two goddesses who were measuring their large shape, noticing that the first goddess did not have such a large shape size. When Vasu came out, everyone looked at the door, thinking about what Vasu was doing there. Namanissa then asked Orlando if she could ask him a question. She awkwardly asked the soldier if Vasu had a lover, to which Orlando was a little surprised. Then the girl began to justify herself that she was too friendly towards Vaz, and this could make him angry. Then Orlando smiled, telling the girl that his friend was just nervous because he was not used to female attention. The guy said that Vasu had no one, and despite the appearance, Vasu suffered from a lack of confidence, and it was easy to hurt him. Orlando added that, at the moment, regarding his feelings for the girls, Vasu was pessimistic. Each girl thought about it differently. One wanted to protect, the other thought it was cute, and the third just smiled. The soldier said that Vasu was much more decent than other people, and of course he could be useful to the princess. She clasped her hands around her collarbones and smiled confidently. Then Vasu returned to them. He sat down next to the girl again, asking why the princess and the others had left the royal capital, thinking that it was time to tell everything. Namanissa sighed, saying that if she told everything, she would involve them in their business. But after Vasu said that everything would be fine, the girl believed him and decided to tell him. In her country of Manbond, King Gavilio and Queen Miralina had 3 children. Her eldest brother, the heir to the throne, the eldest son of Navilio. There was also her older twin sister, Naralina, and, of course, Namanissa herself, who was the younger twin sister. The Manbond family ruled this state. Floyd said that Navilio was excellent in domestic politics, diplomacy, strategy, and almost everything, for which he was nicknamed the genius of his country. And the officials and townspeople were very proud of him. Katie said that if there was a war, then Mrs. Naralina made the blood of enemies rain down. She was so strong that she inspired fear in other states in their chivalric order. Kumiya then said that on the other side was the younger sister, Namanissa, filled with kindness and compassion. She used barrier-type magic, for which she was nicknamed the Holy Princess of Mercy. Then Naminisa said that her family lived in a world without conflict, until one day her parents fell unconscious from an unknown disease, and still did not wake up from it. When they were supposed to rally, her older brother and sister suddenly started treating each other like enemies. They tried to kill each other, and started preparing for war. Namanissa suspected there must have been a reason for their family's similar misfortune, so she and her people started their own investigation. Then Orlando suggested that because of this, the soldiers in red armor tried to interfere with her. Namanissa said that they were not behind their main problem. Vasu asked if anyone else was behind the problem. Then Katie told the princess that their main problem was still being investigated, but they found out about the reason for the enmity between the older children of the Manbond family. Therefore, first of all, Katie wanted to clarify whether they were wearing something unusual when they began to feud, something similar to jewelry. Namanissa thought about it, and then remembered that her brother had a bracelet and her sister wore a necklace. Katie frowned, saying that she knew it, because the manager of the Adventurer Guild in the Eastern Royal Capital had said the same thing. Vasu thought about this manager, assuming she was Reagan's older sister. Then Katie said that the bracelet and necklace were cursed. Namanissa was amazed by the captain's words. She said that all the cursed items should have been stored in sealed vaults, but it was discovered that 2 cursed items were missing. The curse of the snotty youth was placed on the bracelet, and the rage of the berserker was placed on the necklace. And the longer they wore these items, the stronger their control over the owner became. Namanissa then said that they should have prioritized the task of removing the curse, rather than finding the culprit. Katie added that as soon as the items are removed or destroyed, the curse will subside. Vasu then asked, since they were relatives of the princess, if she could approach them, to which Namanissa said that she did not even recognize her. On top of that, there were always about 6 knights around them, which made it difficult to approach them. Then Vasu offered to break through to them by force. Katie warned that those knights were different from the people in red armor. Those knights were of the same level as the A-class adventurers. Orlando asked the princess if she was satisfied with the use of force, then Vasu could do it for the girl because his strength was a little abnormal. Vasu blushed at his friend's words, thinking that Orlando knew him well. Namanissa looked at the vase with confidence, who said he could easily scatter them. He recalled that in the battle he shouted that if they wanted to defeat the guy, then Ying needed to find a better sword. Then he showed his card, which said that even the divine sword couldn't cripple the guy. Vasu said that he also had a younger sister, so he could imagine how sad and unpleasant the girl was from the hatred of her sister and brother. The princess was listening to a guy who had the impression that Namanissa was very cheerful and independent, but now her brother and sister did not recognize her. Therefore, the girl felt lonely, which was hard in itself. Vasu said she left the country for her brother and sister to sort out the problem. He then smiled, saying that the princess was amazing. Then he noticed that the children in the princess's family were very close. The girl closed her eyes at the guy's words. Orlando said that Vasu was impertinent to the princess, but the girl only thanked the Vas. Everyone listened to the girl who said that this request would not go through the guild, so it was informal. And to save her family, the princess asked the guys to destroy the cursed items. She looked at the vase with confidence, asking if they would take up this request. Vasu smiled and then said that he would agree to take this assignment, to which the princess also smiled happily. Then the guy said that he had one condition. He said it was about Orlando, who aspired to be a knight. He said it was impossible to become a knight from scratch, so he asked if they could give his friend a chance. Orlando told Vasu that it was supposed to be a reward for the adventurer, to which Vasu said that they were friends. Orlando burst into tears when he heard the guy's words, and then Namanissa smiled, saying that she would be happy to help. After all, Orlando proved his strength when he saved Katie and her subordinates. Orlando bowed, thanking the princess, and then Vasu thought, since his friend's future was in safe hands, then he had nothing more to ask for. The princess once again asked the vase what he wanted as a reward, but the guy didn't want anything else. And then Naminissa decided to set the reward herself, saying that the guy did not need to be so selfless. She put her hand to her chest, saying that she would be the reward for Vasu. The guy smiled, and then understood the girl's words. Then the girl said that she was glad that the guy was so worried about Orlando's future as a knight, but there was no need to be so formal with the girl. Then the girl said that the guy could just call her Namanissa and talk to her informally. Vasu wanted to say that they shouldn't have done that, but the princess leaned close enough to the guy, staring into his eyes, which made the guy gasp. Then the girl smiled, and the guy confusedly said that he understood her. Then he waved his hand, saying that he understood her, and now he would call her by her first name, to which the princess happily agreed. She then said that they were to head to the royal capital the next day, and the princess herself would be protected by the vase. The princess wished everyone a good night, saying that the men's room was separated from the women's room. Then the butler said that everything was fine, and the princess could stay in the room with the vase, and he and Orlando could take another room. And when Floyd was about to wish them a good night, Namanissa ran at him. She hit the butler with all her might, which sent him flying out the window. The guys were shocked by such an act of the princess, and so they would soon be heading to the royal capital, and therefore Vasu should not be tempted to do his best for this. The next morning came. The maid asked Vasu how long he was going to sleep, because they had to leave soon. Then she picked up and threw the sleeping guy on the floor. He looked at Kumiya sleepily and confused, and then he asked if the girl was definitely a Kumiya. The girl asked with displeasure if the guy was still awake. Vasu noticed that the girl was not like yesterday, and Kumiya did not like the guy's remark. Then Floyd looked into Vasu's room and made sure that Vasu was awake, and then he said it was time for them to leave. Vasu approached the butler and then approached Floyd, asked what was wrong with the girl. Then the butler said that he forgot to tell me that this girl's name was Kumiya. Then the guy assumed that the girls were twins, but Floyd said that this was not entirely true. He called it a split personality. Basically, Kumiya almost always prevailed, but Kumiya also sometimes manifested itself. Then the man said that the girl might seem rude, but it wasn't like that. The guy agreed with the man, noting that the girl was acting like a maid who was grumbling now. Then the girl went at the guy, saying that she would wash him, but Vasu quickly stopped her, saying that he could handle it himself. The guy was in the bathroom when he told Mail that all his new acquaintances were strange. He remembered that Floyd had shot out the window yesterday, and there was no scratch on him, as if he wasn't human. He continued to wipe himself, realizing that in this position he shouldn't have complained at all. Mail sang contentedly. Vasu asked why Mail was looking at him like that, because if she continued to look like that, he might get embarrassed. Then he said that he had nothing to hide, so everything was fine for him, and Mail just looked at the guy with satisfaction. He thought that if he could change his appearance like Ragnar and the others, he would probably be embarrassed. Therefore, he would never appear naked. He smiled at Mael, asking her to stake herself, because he liked it that way more. The dragon only looked at the guy sadly. The guy left the building, and there he met Namanissa, who wished him good morning. The guy responded in kind, and then apologized for making them wait. The princess noticed that his cape was wrinkled, after which she began to correct it, and the guy thanked her. Mail looked at the girl jealously, and then she also began to adjust her cape. Then the guy hugged Mail, saying that she was cute. The dragon looked at the princess contentedly, showing that she was better, but Namanissa understood her. Then the princess said that Vasu was a prankster. Then they set off, and after a while, they reached the capital of the kingdom of Manbond. They drove through the gate, after which Katie said that they would escort Lady Relia to the royal palace. The princess was counting on her captain. Namanissa then said that she and Vasu would remove the curse from her family, so the others wished them luck and asked them to be careful. Vasu and the princess began to walk through the streets of the city. The guy thought that, as expected from the capital, the city was big, so Vasu assumed that it was impossible to walk through the city in half a day from the beginning to the end. Namanissa only smiled at this suggestion, saying that in half a day it was possible to walk around the entire ring. The guy did not understand the meaning of the ring. Then the girl explained that the territory of the kingdom was round in shape, and the capital itself was divided into 3 parts: the royal castle, the noble courtyard, and the outer courtyard. Then Namanissa asked where Vasu was from, to which the guy replied that he was from Iskoa. Then he said that he used to live in the mountains, so he was not used to those places. The girl was surprised by the new information about the guy. And as they approached the next gate, Namanissa assumed that the guy was strong because he had traveled a long time. The guy thought a little, saying that the girl could think so. They began to cross the bridge when Namanissa said that after her father's coronation, only the capital continued to develop. This city has long been a center of trade, and therefore flourished. Vasu noticed that the girl's father was a great king, to which the princess laughed, said that when Vasu met her father, he would realize that he did not look like a king. When they reached the gate, Namanissa told the guy to wait for her when she talked to the guards. Suddenly, the gate began to open and a cart began to leave. Vasu was afraid for Namanissa. He grabbed the girl's arm, pulling her towards him. The cart stopped. Namanissa closed her eyes in fear and then opened them when she realized that nothing had happened. She looked at the serious guy who was looking towards the carriage. She continued to look at him in love when Vasu said that it was dangerous and therefore it was necessary to be more careful. The girl put her hand on the guy's chest and then snuggled up to him, covering her eyes. At that moment, Vasu was looking at the guy who got out of the carriage. The blonde guy smiled happily when he saw Namanissa and said that they had not seen each other for a long time. Vasu wanted to know who this guy was, and then Namanissa sighed, telling Mr. Dengora, who came up, that they really hadn't seen each other for a long time. Then she glanced at the carriage, assuming that he and Chancellor Zays were going to her father's, to which the guy replied that his father had asked him to do it, and then he asked who was next to the princess. And while Vasu was trying to answer in confusion, Namanissa said that Vasu was a strong adventurer, and Mrs. Relai introduced them. Then the girl said that a quarrel had recently broken out between her older brother and sister, and therefore she hired a vase to protect herself. Denroga listened to the princess showing her new acquaintance the city, after which they were going to the palace. He smiled at the guy, saying that Vasu didn't look that strong, to which the adventurer didn't say anything. But Manissa got angry. She pushed the vase forward and then said goodbye to Denrog, telling him to take care of himself. She also noticed that there were no capable people next to the guy and advised him to hire security. The guy wanted to call the girl again because he wanted to talk about their upcoming wedding, so he asked her to stay for a while. Vasu was surprised when he heard the guy. Then Denroga explained to the girl that his father was not very happy about this wedding, so he suggested that Namanissa try to convince him. Then the princess called the guy, who was a little excited. Then she angrily said goodbye to the guy, and then Namanissa and Vasu began to move away from the guy. They arrived at the castle when Vasu decided to ask a question. Namanissa immediately realized that the question was about that guy. The girl looked down sadly when she explained that she had only heard a little about that marriage. The princess bit her lip in annoyance, and then told Vaz that Denroga was the son of Duke Frabond. There were actually 2 royal families, Manbond and Gunnerbond. At first, a man from their family was the king, but he died without an heir. His cousin Duke Freybond became a supporter of King Manbond. Vasu was about to suggest something about this marriage when the girl cut him off, saying that their engagement had been decided by Mr. Denrog's father, Zays. The girl was not happy with this, so she said that when her father wakes up, she will ask to break off this engagement, because she did not want to marry that guy. Vasu understood her, and then the princess ran that she would not let that guy even touch her, but Vasu noticed that the princess was too close to him. Then Namanissa reminded the guy about the award, who had already forgotten about it. The girl said she was his reward, to which the guy thought she was joking. Vasu listened attentively to the princess, who thought that since she was his reward, he could do anything with her. The girl did not have time to finish, as the maids and the butler began to run up to her, who were glad to see the girl. They did not understand why Namanissa did not tell them anything, and after that they said that they were glad that the princess was okay. At that time, the girl only blushed deeply. Then the princess said that she had been able to find out the reason for her brother and sister's quarrel, and now she needed to meet her brother urgently. Upon hearing this, the maid and the butler said that the girl could not do it, which surprised Namanissa. Then they explained that Mr. Navilio had ordered them not to let anyone in to him, or even his family. Namanissa then asked just to open the door, because it was enough for her that she would see him from afar. The girl was asked again, to which she agreed, after which the doors were still opened. They saw in front of them how the guy continued to put seals on the documents. He was sitting at the table and didn't pay attention to anyone, and his gaze expressed nothing. Vasu noticed that the guy didn't even pay attention to them, to which Namanisa replied that her brother had been like that for a long time. He was constantly working with documents, as if he was being controlled. Vasu took a closer look at the jewelry on Navilio's arm, realizing that the curse was an immature puppet. The princess sadly said that her brother was very kind. He was serious, but with a sense of humor, and was always calm in front of people. Navilio also loved the same things as she did, and he understood all people better than anyone. She turned back to Vaz and asked him to save her brother. When the guy heard her, he just smiled. Then he ran into the office like a bullet, and ran the distance from the door. He ran up to the prince. The guy grabbed the cursed jewelry with his hand, which crumbled in an instant from his hands. The guards were surprised by this speed, while the prince silently looked at his now empty hand. Suddenly, Navilio lost consciousness, falling headfirst onto the table. The knights caught themselves, asking what Vasu had done to Mr. Navilio. Vasu tried to calm them down, as from behind the back of the prince's chair, the guy who swung at the prince seemed angry. He shouted for him to die, but Vasu managed to react, neutralizing the attacker. Vasu carefully examined the attacker, realizing that he was like those with red armor. The other knights thanked the Vas, twisting the traitor who could do this to Mr. Navilio. Then Vasu realized that those knights had been threatened. Vasu turned to the princess, saying that everything was fine now because the enemy had been defeated. Upon hearing the adventurer's words, the girl immediately ran to her brother. She asked her brother to come to his senses, holding his head in her lap. After Navilio began to regain consciousness, he opened his eyes slightly, looking at his sister, making sure that it was Namanisa. The guy sighed, closing his eyes, realizing that he had been controlled all this time. Navilio apologized to his sister for causing her so much inconvenience. Namanisa looked at her brother tenderly, saying that this was not the case at all. She hugged him with tears in her eyes, saying that as long as he was fine, it didn't matter at all. After a while, Navilio thanked the vase as well. The guy said that while he was being controlled, he was still conscious, but his body did not obey him. Navilio was glad that Vasu was able to remove the curse from him, and was also grateful that the adventurer helped his sister. And when the prince got down on one knee, Vasu confusedly told him that the prince should not have bowed his head. Then Navilio said that, despite his origin, he was obliged to express gratitude to his savior. Then Vasu also bowed even lower to the prince. Namanisa went over to the vase and sat down next to it, saying that she was grateful too. But the adventurer said it wasn't worth it because he decided to help them himself. And while the princess and Vasu were smiling sweetly at each other, Navilio was watching them closely, after which something came to him. The prince asked if he and Vasu could switch to you, to which the guy agreed with the prince's proposal. Navilio gave his name and then told the adventurer that he could call him his brother-in-law, which was very embarrassing to Namanisa. The prince smiled, saying that no formalities were necessary with him, and therefore he hoped that they would get along. Vasu thought that Navilio was so kind. The prince noticed that his sister was too amorous, to which the girl asked her brother to be silent. Then Vasu turned to Navilio, reminding him that it was still necessary to save his sister from the curse. So he asked where she was now. Navilio sighed, because Vasu was right, and then told her the location. In the royal garden, a girl was sitting by the fountain, and not far from her stood the maids and knights. The girl squeezed her hand at chest level, making a growling sound. One of the servants came up to her, calling Naralina, but she screamed, thrusting her sword forward. The princess glared at the servants, breathing heavily. Then she told them not to approach her, because she could accidentally kill them. The girl's body was trembling with anger. Then the maid said that if she did not eat and drink at all, then her body simply would not stand it. Upon hearing this, Noralina shouted for her to be silent, after which she knocked the tray out of the maid's hands, which scared the girl very much. She again told them not to approach her, and until the control subsided, they could not worry about her. She asked that her brother be brought to her, saying that there was little time left. Noralina furiously ordered that Navilio be brought to her, and then she would cut off his head. The heroes who were watching all this time from the window noticed that the girl became even more furious than she was before. It was hard for Navilio to imagine what his sister went through while he was being controlled. Then Namanissa said that her old sister was leading the kingdom's army, so it was not easy to subdue her. Navilio added that even though she behaved rudely, she was very fragile and feminine under this armor, and the princess agreed with her brother, saying that they had common interests. Hearing these words, Vasu noticed that they were really close. Navilio then asked the Vas to restore their sister's sanity. The guy smiled decisively when he was asked for such a favor. And then he told them to leave it to him when he looked at the furious princess. Naralina did not understand what was happening to her. She felt as if someone was controlling her body. She understood that she was now a danger to her loved ones. She didn't even know if it was a curse. She wanted to pull herself together because she was the strongest person in the kingdom. And while Vasu was walking in her direction, Naralina was thinking that she couldn't do anything alone. The guy stood in front of her. The girl looked at the guy angrily when he was also looking right at her. The girl fiercely held out her sword in front of her, asking who the guy who didn't even move was. Then the girl screamed for the guy to say goodbye to his head, but the girl's inner voice asked the guy to run away because she did not want to harm him. The guy began to wonder where the necklace was. Then it dawned on him that the decoration could be under the armor. At that moment, the girl was already behind the guy, and then, swinging her sword, she struck the adventurer's back. Namanissa cried out in alarm. The brother and sister looked anxiously at the vase and Naralina. Navilio then told his sister to take a closer look at the vase and realized that everything was fine. Vasu was a little scared, but he expected this from the princess. After that, he ran at the girl. She swung at the guy again and then struck with her sword, but Vasu managed to dodge the blow. But Naralina started attacking the guy again. Vasu managed to intercept the girl's hand, which made her confused. She was very angry about it. Then the guy grabbed the girl by the bib, smashing it into pieces. And now he could see the necklace. It shone brightly on the girl's chest. Then she said that such a terrible necklace was not worthy of the beauty of Mrs. Naralina. From these words, the girl blushed, after which the guy crushed the jewelry, from which the girl began to fall down, without strength. She opened her eyes a little, feeling that it was letting her go. The girl fell on the guy, hugging him tightly. Blushing deeply, she looked at the guy, thinking about who the guy in front of her was. Naralina didn't understand why her heart was pounding so hard. Vasu anxiously asked if the girl was okay. She just sighed, saying that everything was fine and she was back in order. The guy heard that the girl thanked him for saving her. Then the guy asked if something was wrong. Then Naralina replied that it was the first time a man hugged her, and then added, looking at the vase, that she even liked it. The guy blushed awkwardly, and then the princess asked his name. And when Vasu told his name to the smiling girl, a disgruntled Namanissa looked at them. She asked that her sister had already come to her senses. The hovering male from behind was also jealous of the vase for the princess. Then Naralina apologized for the trouble. The prince also apologized to her, but now they were both fine. Navilio said they shouldn't have worried about it. And then Naralina smiled, and the three of them hugged. Vasu smiled as he watched the family reunion. Then Naminisa turned to Vaz. She was very grateful for saving her sister, but then she angrily protested that she and his sister had hugged for long enough. Vasu began to apologize for this to both the princess and Mail. The guy seriously said that he was too cocky, and therefore he thought that he would be accused of inappropriate behavior towards the royal family. But the girl said that wasn't the point. After all, she didn't hug a guy at all. Then her older brother asked Naminisa to calm down, explaining that Naralina had caught the vase so that she would not fall. Naralina agreed with her brother's words, then added, looking slyly at her sister, that it was very pleasant to hug Vasu. Naminisa was not happy with these words of her sister. Then Navilio realized that the sisters' interests had converged again, and Vasu looked at the prince with interest. He began to explain to the adventurer that, once upon a time, he had already given Naminisa an ivy bear, and then Naralina also wanted one. As a result, the girls fought. Then the prince decided that he would give the girls only the same things, and from that moment on, he did not change his traditions. Vasu was in a little shock. Navilio noticed that Vasu was alone, so he didn't know what to do with him. At that moment, Vasu began to imagine how the princesses began to tear him apart like that teddy bear. And so the girls, looking at each other, grabbed the hands of a guy who was really scared. Naminisa, with feigned politeness, asked her sister to move away from the vase, to which the second sister said that she would not take the vase from her because they were no longer children. After all, they both knew what to do in such a situation. They could just share. At that moment, Vasu was praying that the girls would not tear him apart. The girls snuggled up to the guy, telling him to be honest at the same time. She looked at the guy, asking for a vase so that he would become a man for both sisters at once. The guy was confused, and then the prince proudly said that his sisters were able to find a peaceful solution, as he expected from them. Navilio then said that after this, their father would wake up in the blink of an eye and would be glad to hear such news. It seemed to Vaz that they were in too much of a hurry. Then Neralina told the guy to talk informally with both of them. The guy was about to object, but the girl looked at him threateningly, after which the guy gave up. Vasu called the girl by name, but she asked him to repeat the name again. The guy embarrassedly said her name again, and again the girl asked to repeat it, to which the guy got angry, asking how many more times he had to repeat it. Neralina only smiled happily, thinking that it was better that way. Then the girl apologized to the maids and the butler, realizing that she had scared them badly. To this, everyone replied that they were fine, and now they were happy. And while the princess thanked her servants, who were crying with happiness, Navilio said that now they could go to the room where their parents slept. They came to their parents' chambers, watching the sleeping rulers. The sisters sat on either side of their parents. Namanisa sadly said that her magic was powerless in this situation. Navilio hoped that after their curse was lifted, they would feel better. Neralina understood that there were no cursed objects on her parents, so she did not know what was the matter. Then someone was heard outside the door calling Namanisa. And after that, all those whom Namanisa and Vasu said goodbye to at the gate to the capital went into the room. Orlando happily approached his friend, asking how he was. Vasu smiled, saying that everything was fine, and then the soldier realized that the prince and the princess were also fine thanks to the vase. Navilio realized that Orlando was a friend of Vasu. Then the soldier bowed, saying that they traveled together with Vasu. Taking advantage of the moment, Vasu said that Orlando had skills, so he thought that the prince could take Vasu's friend as a knight. Orlando was confused, but then Navilio agreed with Vasu to take the guy into service. Then Katie said that she was glad to see Neralina. She thanked him for his concern, and then added that she had already learned about that investigation. The captain said they found out those were cursed through special items, but still couldn't figure out the reason for the king and queen's sleep. Then Floyd added that they had brought the head of the guild, suggesting that she could help them. Kumiya went to the door, and then asked the woman to enter the room. Vasu asked a friend if she was Regan's sister, to which Orlando said that he had just spoken to her. He leaned closer to his friend, saying that he was surprised, and began to draw the vase in his head again, the very image where Relia was a female copy of Regan. Then a beautiful woman with glasses entered the room, which Vasu was very surprised by. He just couldn't believe his eyes. Then Relia approached him, realizing that he was the same vase. The guy awkwardly scratched his head, confirming the woman's words, and then added that he was a C-rank adventurer. Relia said she had heard about him from Orlando. Then the guy, smiling, showed the badge that Regan had given him, and then his guild member card. The woman looked at the map carefully, noting that it looked authentic, and then added that her stupid brother had trusted this guy. The woman then decided to formally introduce herself and said that she was the chief of staff of the Adventurers Guild of the eastern capital of the kingdom. She said that the guy had just saved Navilio and Neralina, and therefore his rank did not show his strength, because there was no such C-ranked adventurer who was able to defeat the royal guard. Relia added that she had not yet seen all of his fox in person, and did not know what tricks he used. She smiled, realizing that it was a real stroke of luck for the guildmaster to find an adventurer who was trusted by so many people. The guy was surprised by such a compliment from the head of the guild, and after that he awkwardly thanked her for it. Relia approached Namanisa, asking how the rulers were. The princess said that they slept for a very long time, and then asked if the woman had ever seen such a thing. Relia thought about it, because in her whole life she had met everything, and she could say that it could be some kind of magical substance. But Namanisa said the doctors would have figured it out long ago if that was the case. Then Relia clarified that she was not talking about substances known to most. She suggested that this substance could be ancient and long lost. Relia couldn't help but know about it, because such a strong substance with all this was impossible to determine. The prince was upset by this, suggesting that this substance could have been long-acting and they might not have had a chance. Neralina was unhappy that their parents could sleep like that for all eternity. I offered to find the culprit and find out a way to remove this magic. Namanissa recalled that she couldn't even find the one who cursed her older brother and sister. Raleigh thoughtfully agreed with the princess's words, adding that even if they found them, they could lie to them. The vase was sad because, even by force, there was nothing to be done. Namanissa looked at the adventurer anxiously. Then Raleigh thought that if there was someone whose knowledge surpassed their era, someone who had lived for many years, perhaps he would be able to help. Then an idea appeared in the vase. He spoke softly to Mail, asking how old Ragnar was. Then the little dragon began to explain that her father was very, very many years old, and Vasu decided that he should have asked the Dragon King about it. During Serona and Tata's journey, the carriage continued on its way when Serona decided to ask a question that was a bit strange to ask a fellow harem member. Tata giggled and then said that Serona could ask her anything. Then the elf reminded that Tata had already mentioned that she worked in a brothel but did not do it of her own free will. Then Tata dreamily said that if Vasu had allowed her to be one of the participants in the harem, she would have given herself to him, body and soul. Then Serona remembered that Tata and Vasu often met in a brothel. Serona was trying to find the right words about whether there was something between Vasu and Tata. Then Tata smiled contentedly. She put her hands on Serona's shoulders, saying that she had hit the bullseye. The girl began to describe their meetings in colors, which made the elf blush. Then Tata said she was joking, because Vasu didn't even touch her. Then she hugged Serona, saying that the elf was too cute, and therefore Tata couldn't help but tease her. Serona breathed a sigh of relief, saying that she was glad to hear this because she was already afraid that she had managed to fall behind. Then Tata also asked how far Serona and Vasu had gone. The elf said that there was nothing like that between them. Then Tatu asked if Serona had shown her body. She wanted to answer that it hadn't happened, but then she remembered that the guy had seen her naked when she was taking a bath. Tata assumed that he could also see the vase below, but Serona quickly rejected this. Then Tata boasted that Vasu had already seen her without clothes. Serona was unhappy with this, and then said that they were both on equal terms, which is why they had a draw. Then Tata realized that Vasu hadn't touched any of them. Serona thought about it and then admitted that she was a little worried about it. After all, the guy came to the brothel and did nothing at all, and the girl was already looking forward to the moment when Vasu would show his masculine side. However, Serona did not think that he avoided relationships with girls because of his kindness. Then Tata said that she once asked Vasu that there could be a possibility that he was not interested in girls, but he refuted her hypothesis. Serona thought about it, and then Tata, putting her finger to her lips, suggested to the girl that if they met with Vasu again, they should try to seduce the guy with their little assertiveness. But Serona immediately said that she couldn't do it, and for the girl to take the first step at all, it was a little awkward. Then Tata asked why she couldn't do it. Tata continued to listen to her new friend's awkward speech, who was able to pull herself together and then said that she had no experience. And then, looking away in embarrassment, Serona admitted that she had never been in a relationship with anyone before, and therefore it was very awkward for her to talk about it. Upon hearing Serona's confession, Tata was touched by this and then hugged the girl, saying that she was touched that it was wonderful of Serona to give her untouched body to the vase. Serona was a little embarrassed, noting that if, of course, Vasu wanted it, then she would obey. She added that she was too inexperienced in this regard, and therefore she was afraid to disappoint the vase. Then Tata shared that it had nothing to do with the experience and the techniques used, because the very decision to start their first relationship was unimaginably wonderful. Serona listened to the girl who said that she was not able to do it again, and therefore she was very jealous of the elf. And then the blonde girl said that as long as Tata's feelings and heart were devoted to the vase, the girl who listened attentively to the elf only needed to show her love. Tata was surprised by her new friend's words and then smiled. She sighed and then said that these words also applied to Serona herself. Tata pointed at the elf and then told her not to worry about it. After all, she was sure that Mr. Vasu would give all of himself to love. Then Tata suggested that the girl give a couple of lessons that would definitely not interfere with the girl, so Tata could enlighten the girl in terms of relationships. But Serona told the girl not to turn up her nose, and Tata decided to check the body of the girl who began to resist. At the same time, Nenya was thinking about how long it all had to last. Vasu happily said that he had arrived at the right place, and the reason they arrived there was because the rulers of Manbond were still asleep. Therefore, to solve this, the guy needed to talk to someone who understands ancient magical medicine. Therefore, He decided to go to the fact that he had lived for a long time, such was Mael's father, but still he thought it was better to ask Lagunir about it. The guy didn't have confirmation of this, but it was definitely faster than asking two goddesses, and even if they did something, they would still annoy the guy. He climbed up the cliff, thinking about how he could finally get to that castle. The guy looked ahead, noticing that someone was standing in front of the castle. These people started calling Lagunir to come out and play with him. They began to smile sweetly. Then Vasu came up to them, asking what they were doing there, and immediately the faces of the strangers changed to hostile ones. They crowded around the guy and began to ask who he was and why he had come. They did not understand what a person had forgotten in such a place. Then Vasu said that he was also a friend of Lagunir. The lion did not believe in the guy's words because he was the dragon's best friend. The lion tried to fight the guy, but he didn't even budge. Geen was amazed that the guy was too strong. The rest of the people praised the friend and then attacked the guy, saying that it was their turn to deal with the guy, and after that there was a big fight. After this fight, Lagunir laughed happily, looking at his beaten friends and the unflappable vase, saying that they were too noisy for games, noting that they got along well with each other. Then the dragon said that Vasu was his new friend, and after that he told Vasu that those four were his old friends, who were called the strongest of this mountain. But then his old friends noticed that despite the fact that they were strong, they were so easily beaten by a man, and this confused them. Then Lagunir said that Vasu, who did not seem so strong, really had a power that was not conspicuous. And then he remembered how the guy had picked him up with ease. The old friends asked if they would remain friends, to which the dragon said that if they dropped their dislike of the vase, they would remain them. Therefore, the evil spirits smiled amiably, saying if Vasu was Lagunir's friend, then he was their friend too. Vasu noticed that they were surprisingly pleasant people. Then they introduced themselves. The golden lion was praised by the Beastgine, the werewolf was called Zir, the high elf next door was called Rito, and the last necromancer was called Niru. Vasu then asked who the high elves were, and then Rito decided to tell everyone to the guy. He said that even though he was a high elf, his heart was beating like an ordinary elf. Then he said that he loved the elf girls very, very much anyway, and Vasu was not surprised by this. Then Rito said that he once liked the idea that came to him when he came to a place where the elves of his village were messing around, after which he was kicked out for it. This thought was that even the stern and noble elves had lush body parts. The elf hoped that one day he would be able to meet all the elves in that world. Then he confessed that he loved all the elf girls because he was a high elf, after which there was an awkward silence. I forgot that there were such living people. Vasu then turned to Lagunir, saying that he wanted to ask something. Then he told the story of the rulers of Manbond. Lagunir thought that the reason for the king's sleep was an ancient curse. Then the dragon suggested asking the guy about it from Nier. The guy agreed with his friend, because Nier was a necromancer. To this, Nier said that a long life was the only thing he succeeded in. Nier wondered if Vasu had explained everything correctly, then it could very likely be a potion with some kind of magical effect. Rito said that a lot of people had been experimenting with them lately, and therefore he couldn't determine what it was. Vasu listened carefully, that whether it was medicine or magic, if it wasn't used correctly, it could cause problems in the future. Then Nier asked the guy if he could get that medicine, because that was the only way he could do anything. Unfortunately, the guy didn't take anything with him, to which the necromancer replied that he couldn't do anything. Then Nier suggested that if he returned to his laboratory, he could do something. Vasu suggested that they go together, to which the necromancer said that they would have to go far. Then Lagunir intervened in their conversation, saying that Nier did not understand the whole essence of Vasu's magic. The adventurer said that he wanted to return home as soon as possible. Therefore, if they walk to Nier's house, they'll arrive in Manbond the next morning. But the necromancer believed that this was not possible. Vasu said that Nier would go with him, but he did not understand why. Then Vasu said that if Nier looked at the sleeping rulers, he could fix it. But the necromancer was talking about something else. Then Vasu said that he would carry the skeleton on his back, and the guy missed the mark again. Then Nier said that he was a necromancer who was a monster, so it would be bad if he appeared in the city of people. He was afraid that people might throw stones at him and dogs might gnaw his bones. And then he could cry, returning with nothing. Vasu noticed that Nier wasn't overconfident for a monster. To all this, Nier added that there could be soldiers or monster hunters in the city who would definitely harm him. Vasu reminded him that the necromancer was one of the strongest on the mountain, to which he replied that it was too long ago. Then Vasu said that the skeleton had nothing to worry about, because if he was on the good side, then Vasu would support him. And then he said that if the danger towards Nier happens, the adventurer will definitely protect him. The guy understood that he had recently met the prince and princesses, but he still wanted to help them. And when the king and queen can wake up, their family will be happy again. Vasu was sure that if Nier saw the smiles of those people, we would become much happier. And that's why Vasu wanted the necromancer to help him, because he believed in him. Nier sighed, amazed at the guy's speech, after which he still agreed. However, he said that he had one condition. Vasu happily promised that he would do anything. Then the necromancer said if the guy met a skeleton with a beautiful collarbone, he had to introduce them, because Nier wanted to get himself a wife. There was silence. Vasu understood that this request was a little difficult, but after that he agreed with the necromancer.